Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, from wherever you're joining us here in the world. That is where we are. And welcome to the penultimate round of the Darkwing Racing Endurance Championship, here at one of the motorsport's most historic and technical venues, Autodromo Internazionale Enzo di Dino Ferrari. Almost got there. Narrow and flowing and unforgiving, Imola is a circuit where precision and discipline are absolutely essential. With a title fight rearing its conclusion, the pressure has never been higher. Imola is all about rhythm and accuracy. The flow sequence through the Tamburello chicane, through to Villeneuve and into the Tosa, demands confidence and clean inputs, while the middle sector punishes even the slightest mistake. Elevation changes and aggressive curbs make car control critical, especially in this GT3 machinery, where traction and stability can make or break a lap. Round 9 of 10 is a crucial turning point in the championship, with only one round remaining. After this, every position gained or lost could define the title outcome, with this week's sprint and feature race format adds another layer of intensity. Drivers must balance outright pace into a shorter sprint, with consistency and strategy in the longer sprint feature race. There's no room for error, and no time to recover from mistakes. Welcome, one and all, to Imola here in Italy. We have some fine drivers out there on track, and once again, this week, I am joined by the wonderful Zach. Zach, how are you doing this evening, sir?
Hey, Lewis, I'm doing pretty good. Glad to be back. Excited to see some racing today.
Yeah, well, we do have, I believe, 11 drivers out there on the track, as is kind of natural with the leagues over time, as you get some drivers who drop off the end and maybe don't get so interested as they were at the start of the season, but there is still a lot to play for in the championship. If we go and have a little look at the championship standings, in the AM class, it is JT Sawyer who, after a comprehensive victory, being the only AM class driver to finish last week, he is made a lovely, comfortable lead at the top of the AM championship standings on 1,939. He has 628 points on Stefan Heinrichs behind. It's going to be a miracle, I think, for Stefan Heinrichs today, and is essentially going to need JT Sawyer to not finish out there in either of the races in order to have a victory. As just having a little look here, I do believe there are 720 points possibly available on the championship standings. That's if you win your class and win the overall race. So a tough hill to climb, shall we say, for Stefan Heinrichs and Andy Keane, who is in behind him in the championship standings. But looking at my display here, doesn't look like he is here this evening. In behind, in the middle of Andy Keane and James Vernon is Kit Blair, who is here today. He's on 1,286. He is almost certainly going to jump up in front of Andy Keane into third place in the championship standings before we head to the final round next weekend. Let's move on to the Pro-Am Championship, and this is where everything gets a little bit more spicy. Looking at Gabor Nagibea right now in the 017 car on 2,164 points. Just in behind is going to be Daniel Kovacs, 49 points behind. With the point system in this championship, they are basically tied together. It's Carsten Walter who is in behind with 1,978, 186 behind. Going to be a steep climb for him. He did move in front of Sean Ferreira last time out. More going to be battling with Sean for that third place in the championship. And Michael Rhodes in fifth place, 1,766. May be where he stays in the Pro-Am standings for now. Finally, have a look at our Pro class. Very competitive. Once again, at the front is Harrison Brinker on 2,222, but Rudd School just in behind him on 2,045. Eric Gerbhard on 1,955, losing out last time out at Road America. And, well, our almost winner, but crashed out of Road America, Jan Hilden, 1,699 points. It is a very close fight at the front there, all covered by less than 200 points. And with only 4 Pro Class drivers out there, it's going to be those who, those high points places at the top, who is going to be heading out there. And well, Zach, having a look at those championship standings, I think my money's on JT for the AM class. But what about those other classes out there? Zach, you still with me?
Apologies, my mic stopped working there. I think we're in for an exciting race. Like you said, it's a smaller pack today. It's all the more competitive racers of the class. I think we're definitely going to see some exciting moves and some close racing today. Absolutely.
Well, let's see if our overlays fix themselves. There we go. We are 7 minutes into qualifying. Only five times on the board thus far. And, well, let's make it 6 with Sean Ferreira crossing the line to go 4th place overall. Gerhard is your current pace leader with a 1:41.266. And, well, as I was saying a little bit earlier, we're here at Imola, and it's a sprint feature format out there, which means there's a 30-minute sprint race followed by an hour-and-a-half feature race, which is a bit different to our 2-hour endurance rounds that we're used to. It's the last one of the season before we head to the final round next weekend at Portimao. And yeah, as you said, it's going to be some close racing because it is those at the top of the championship who are here today. And, well, let's see who is currently on an improvement. Rudd School currently looks like he is improving. Where is he on the track? He's coming around the last couple of corners now. In fact, round the final corner. Currently 6/10 off of Carsten Walter, who is in front of him in 3rd position. As it stands, is that still going to be the case when he comes across the line to do a 42.135? Well, he's very much closer to Carsten Walter. Just, well, it was 44 hundredths of a second. It's now extended to 4/10 to Daniel Kovacs in front as Carsten Walter goes with the fastest time of the day so far.
You know, this is one of the more exciting tracks that we're going to run this season. There's lots of tight corners. Everything's a little bit different, so it'll be exciting to see how these drivers handle all these corners in a row and see if they're all able to put something together.
Indeed, very important to get on. It's a very flowing track. You can get into a rhythm. Someone who looks like he's been in a rhythm thus far is Kip Blair in the AM class. He crosses the line. He had some purple sectors, but he hasn't popped up on my timing screen. He's yet to be given a position, assuming he must have got an off track or a slowdown somewhere that invalidated his lap. Harrison Brinker has improvements almost all round. He is 7.7 seconds off the pace, but that must have been an outlap for him. And, well, once again, he crosses the line. It doesn't improve. Once again, a few off tracks here, catching people out. And, well, they've got 20 minutes left, so more than enough time to get a time in. But some of these drivers pushing very hard kind of at the beginning here.
Yeah, you know, we did have some rain on the radar potentially, so these drivers might just be trying to get out there, get a good time in, try to give everything they can before the track conditions potentially change here.
Well, I believe we are looking at a shower between the sprint race and the feature race, but no actual rain during any session, I do believe. So,
right, I stand corrected.
But of course, you are right that that rain is due, I think, probably in about an hour from now. Of course, the weather has to adapt to get to that rain. It's not just going to be a flip switch where it starts raining, so the track conditions are absolutely going to change as the session progresses. We can have a little look at those track conditions, and well, we've got a strong 17-kilometer-an-hour wind out there. Looking at around a 24-degree track temp, so pretty ideal for those GT3 cars out there. And we're only at 10, well, coming up to 11 a.m. in sim time. So we're certainly going to be looking at it heating up a little bit here in March in Italy. And well, we're currently watching Kit Blair, who has set on multiple laps now a good chunk of purple sectors, but seemingly hasn't been able to hook it up into a lap that even counts on the board, let alone a lap at the front. He's currently right on the back of another Mustang, flashing its lights, but of course that Mustang in front of him absolutely does not have to get out of the way. It's on the car behind to make a nice gap for qualifying, and Kip does back off a little bit there to build a gap and go on his next lap. I think it might be the fourth I've seen him go on before he sets a lap time on the board, unless this one's going to count and be very slow indeed.
Yeah, he definitely looks like he's flying out there. You just got to find himself an open piece of track to be able to put those times down.
Indeed, and yeah, he certainly have a look at his racing. He has improved on his time that was 7 seconds off the pace, and well, he is currently fourth, 4 and a little bit tenths off, but he has set a purple first sector, but it hasn't been any sort of improvements anywhere else. And where does he go when he comes across the start-finish line? Has he backed off at some point during this lap? Because that counter going a lot longer than I would expect. Indeed, it looks like he has, and is ready to go for another lap.
Yeah, you know, Harrison has kind of made a tear through this season. He had a little bit of a rough go at the beginning, but in this latter part, he's really put down a lot of insanely good positions, really good times, and he's made his way back up to that first position in the pro class.
Absolutely, and something he'll want to capitalise on today with both Eric and Rudd here, very close in that pro championship, but currently all of the pro drivers are behind 2 of the AM drivers in Carson Walter and Daniel Kovacs out there. And, well, that is going to be a turn-up if it stays that way, with just over 15 minutes left in the qualifying session. And, well, a little bit different to other qualifying sessions of the year is normally when we run an endurance round, you're able to finish your lap once that counter hits 30 minutes, but that's not the case. It's a bit more like traditional iRacing qualifying, where once the timer is gone, no more laps can be set. So it is a hard 30-minute limit out there today. As we join Harrison coming down into those final couple of turns, he's set a personal best in the 3rd sector, but what is he going to be able to do as he comes up to the line? It's looking a little bit better than that last lap. Comes across the line. Oh, the line's a lot further forward than I thought. It's going to be a 42.3 for him, so no improvement up the standings.
You know, like I was talking about earlier, this is one of those tracks where it is, you know, it's a long track compared to some of the other ones we've raced, but it's very technical, so it can be quite difficult to put all these corners together within the same lap to get a good time down. Yeah,
I mean, I feel it very, very deeply when maybe in the first sector, your dash is saying you're up 2 tenths. You've got to try and carry that all the way throughout the lap. And that's particularly difficult here because it is quite intense to drive. You are kind of like always heading towards a corner. There's 2 long straights for you to have a bit of a breather. But yeah, once you're in that middle part of the lap, you've got to try and keep it all the way through. And yeah, that can be very difficult. Is this Kip Blair's time to come up the timing tower? He has a purple 4th sector as he comes up towards the line. Is it going to be a valid lap this time out, though? Yes, it is, as he slides into 5th place, and, well, 8.5 tenths off of the current pole time, which has been surmounted, and Eric Gerhard, the pro class driver, who has come up with the goods, and does a 40.492. And, well, that is everybody on the board, all 11 drivers out there today. And, well, you could almost make it 3 and 3 if it wasn't for a couple of extra drivers. You've got 4 of our Pro-Am drivers and 4 of our Pro drivers, 3 Am drivers, all of which are towards the top end of the championship. And, well, it is a smaller grid, but that does mean you can get some more intense racing out there. Well, now he's got a time on the board. Very much see Kit Blair improving here. He's got a personal best first sector, personal best second sector, fastest overall in that last sector as he jumps across the Tamburello chicane. And, well, this is looking like a very tidy lap indeed. If it's not going to put him at the top of the timing, he is unfortunately going to be... sorry, if it's not going to put him at the top, it's going to put him very close to the top of it. Unfortunately for Mike Rhodes, he missed registration today, and otherwise we would have had 12 drivers out there, but we sure hope he's back with us for Portimao next time out, and the final round of the season, of course. Kit Blair crossed the line. Looks like that fourth sector there. Well, it did jump him up to fourth place, actually. I thought it'd cost him some time on the timing screens, but not on this occasion.
It looks like Kit Blair is able to find himself some open air as his times just keep coming down lap after lap.
Absolutely, and, well, that's the way you'd want to do qualifying around here. There is not a massive advantage to being in somebody's slipstream during qualifying, because they're more than likely going to get in your way rather than help you at any point. And, well, just before the stream began, me and Zach were talking about, you know, different tracks that are used in endurance racing. Imola, being such a popular track on iRacing, doesn't have a single endurance race as a special event all year long, despite the real-life 6 hours of Imola. And it's always popular out there on iRacing, kind of wondering why exactly it's not used so much. Because, well, it certainly creates some interesting racing, especially if you've got a big grid out there of, well, quite a few fast drivers, and could certainly make an interesting race. And sure, we will see one out there today.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. I don't think I ever really looked into Imola. I think I just expected them to have an endurance race that matched that one. But now that I think about it, you're right. You really don't see this a lot in the endurance side of the iRacing schedules. Yeah,
I mean, we have a lot of kind of copies of real-life events. We have Suzuka, 1,000 kilometers, of course, all the 24s of Spa and Daytona, Nürburgring, of course. But yeah, not a lot of love for Imola out there. I mean, up until last couple of years ago, it was an 8 hours of Fuji event, and I'm sure people enjoy Imola a lot more than Fuji, especially if you do get stuck behind some traffic. But maybe one to consider for a potential DWR race later in the year, because yeah, it is very popular whenever it shows up on the IMSA schedule or the GT schedule, for that fact as well.
Yeah, I think you may be right. Everyone should keep their eyes open. We got some exciting stuff coming up, and I think this one might be towards the top of that list.
Absolutely, yeah. And I mean, we even get 6 hours of, is it 6 hours, 12 hours of Indianapolis, 8 hours, somewhere. It's somewhere between 6 and 12. I think it might be 10 actually, if I'm not mistaken. And well, let's have a little look at what is happening out there on track. There is only 8 minutes to go, and I feel like we could be rambling for a little while. Carsten Walters just made some improvements on his lap, saves exactly 1/10 of a second to be 0.79 behind Eric Gerpard at the top of that timing table. And well, we got the top 7 within a second of each other for qualifying times. Of course, that sprint feature format might be able to romp away, but the grid is going to get inverted, and there's going to be rain on the track. I think that's going to make it quite interesting, especially with the smaller grid size out there. There might be some more incentive for those drivers that do get flipped at the end to fight a bit harder, because it is going to be all important. Every point's going to matter at the top of those tables.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. The smaller track is going to or the smaller grid is going to lend itself well to the flip that we do between the sprint and the feature race. So it'll be exciting to see where drivers kind of end up, if any of them use any strategy to try to maximize points here.
Well, that's a good point as well. It is a smaller track. It is quite thin, and overtaking points can be limited. One of them is heading down towards the final couple of turns, as you can see with Carsten Walter here. Turn 1, generally you can get some good overtaking through there, because you do have that long straight to do a bit of slipstreaming, but you've got to get a great exit out of those final corners. So yeah, it will be a bit easier for some of the drivers that are lower down the timing table to maybe keep some of those Pro-Am or even Pro drivers behind as the race unfolds. And not seeing any massive improvements out there on track right now. Rudd School, who currently in P6 in the 181 car, coming round the final turn there. He's only improved in the first sector. That's how difficult it can be around here, is if you do get that improvement in the first sector, you've got to carry it all the way around the lap. And I think for Rudd, unfortunately, hasn't done so on this occasion. Everyone else not seeing any improvements in the sector times. Could be that the track is past its best in terms of track conditions. You can see quite a lot of gravel that has been flicked up on the side of the road there, and yeah, it's certainly going to slow down some of the drivers out there. And let's have another little look at the weather. Track temperature is still the same, air temperature is still the same, and well, Rudd School is not facing the right way. That won't help his lap times one bit, and he does have cars coming around, and well, he's going to be very careful not to yeah, there we go, not to collide with anybody on their hot lap.
Yeah, this is, like we were talking about a couple times here already. The track is tight, but there's a lot of these long straights that lead into these really tight, really connected corners, and that can be the toughest part to getting those laps tied together. You may hit that first section, maybe even the second, third, and fourth section correctly, but it's so easy to carry too much speed into these tight corners and throw yourself either off track into the dirt, or even just enough to get all four over that white line and collect that off track.
Yeah, Yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see that in the race as well, because yeah, there's lots of tight corners, and we had absolutely zero stewards protests last time. Everyone was very clean with their racing, helped by the smaller grid, of course. But yeah, it's going to be very interesting to see how that comes into play during the race. Here is Daniel Kovacs. Here he has set a purple middle sector, should I say. He wants to jump forward, hopefully in front of Cost and Walter, or even better, to be in front of Eric. But has he done enough improvement throughout the lap? No, I don't think he has. But it looks like he might be going for one more, and he is the only car out on track right now. He has the, he has the entire of Imola to himself. So, well, let's ride on board with him and just listen in to this lap of Imola in the Porsche.
And you're looking at it from this cockpit view, and you can see just how quick some of these corners are into some of these really, really slow, tight corners like this one, where you got to take all that power and shut it down as quick and smooth as you can and try to keep all four tires in the track. And that can be the hardest part of, this track altogether, is just how different and how, each section is vastly, separated from the one before it.
Absolutely, and well, the Porsche is a car that goes very well around here. Let's see. I didn't see anything absolutely spectacular in those final sectors for Daniel here. His best time so far, the 1:48.68. Going to come up to the line now, hoping for something closer to a 1:40.5. Hugging that wall. What's it going to be for him? It's going to be a 47.15, so it is an improvement, but not enough to jump up the tower. Is he going for another lap? He has just about got time to go again, actually. And, well, let's see how well that plays out for him, because, of course, he's just made an improvement, and sometimes you have that flow that you can make another one right after, all the way over the curb there. Breaking down here, you want to be able to get a good exit to really push yourself as hard as you can up that hill. Then you've just got to focus about the turning point coming in front of you. So second sector is an improvement for Daniel here. This can be such a tricky corner, not because it's tricky to drive, but because you've got to stay within those white lines. Porsche of the 42 is going to stay with the white lines for now, and another terrible corner to try and keep it in the white lines. Acqua Minerale coming up towards the Tamburello chicane. You've got to take some of the bump, but you don't want it to disrupt you so much. Once again, you want to use all of the track here, but not go over that white line. Looks pretty tidy from the Porsche driver before you're heading down. Once more, two tricky corners, two left-handers at 90 degrees. You want to hug that curb all you can on the right-hand side. Just touch the top of the curb there and do it once more, but Daniel's out of time in this particular session, maybe getting a quick caught out by that sprint feature format. They can't finish this lap after the checkered flag comes out, but only by about 15 seconds. My mic is crackling a lot, apparently. I will try and fix that for you in just one moment. There we go. I've made sure that I'm properly plugged in. Please let me know if that has improved things. Oh yeah, notice that the cable was not all the way in. Is that... There we go. I heard the... Don't worry, anybody watching the stream, that badong was not you, it was me. As everybody collectively reacts to the Windows disconnection noise. Well, Zach, we've got 11 cars coming to the grid. Got Eric at the front, two Pro-Am drivers, and then Kip, the Am-Class driver, in behind, said that it's going to take quite a miracle for anybody to get in front of JT Sawyer. Do you think Kip could maybe push himself even a bit further to maybe take some very crucial points in the championship?
You know, he's had some fast times, and watching him out there on track, he was able to be very smooth with how he collected these corners. So I think he's got a big chance of being able to move forward and get himself, you know, at a more comfortable spot on this track, and maybe a better spot for either this sprint race, or maybe kind of be a little strategic and try to get himself into the middle, more of the front end of the track for that feature race.
Absolutely. Well, let's watch from the back of the pace car. You can see Eric Gerhard. Oh, he's gone. He's back at the front of that pack. He didn't have a great race last time out in Road America, and was kind of halfway in the middle of the pack, and I think might have got involved in an incident or two during that race. All on his own, unfortunately for him, or well, fortunately for the drivers around him. Looks like he might be having a couple of connection issues there, and well, Carsten Walter is trying to push his nose ahead, try and keep the pace of this 11 car pack ready to go, but he is he's making sure that everybody knows that he is the race leader and he is the one who's going to set the grid off. Drivers aren't allowed to go until that green flag comes out, which actually quite a while after the pace car makes its way into the pit lane. And you can see, well, Daniel Kovacs, important in that Pro-Am championship, is right in between, behind his teammate. And, well, it's going to want to be right up on the back of him come the start line. Let's change our focus then from the pace car as it does peel into the pits. And we have a pack of 11 cars getting ready for the lights. And they go.
Like he said, we got a green flag. Here we go.
Here we go. That felt like such a long wait for those drivers. We've got 3 wide in the background. Are they all going to make it through turn 1 neatly? Let's look in the middle of that field. It looks like everybody has made it through turn 1 nicely, and it is Eric Gerhard who stays in the lead and actually manages to have half a second gap over Carsten Walter. He jumps in and out a little bit. Let's have a look at Carsten Walter, who will be chasing him down in that Chevrolet. And it looks like everybody's made it through, but not Timo Gartner. He looks like he's spun across the front of the car, and he is a victim of the start of that race. Oh, and Daniel Kovacs goes for a spin as well. That looked like all by himself. And, well, we were saying that the sprint race format earlier in the season can, in some drivers, bring out a bit more of an aggressive attitude. Let's go and have a little look at what happened to those drivers in the drama unfolding in lap 1. Timo Gartner here. Oh, Timo, he didn't get hit by anybody. Looks like maybe Kip Blair there lost his front end on that Mercedes, as Timo just got a bit too much on the curb, I think, and, well, went for a spin all by himself. And having a little look, I think Daniel Kovacs might have had the same problem, just in a different corner. He's braking down. He just gets tapped by the Mustang behind him. Just a little tap there, and, well, he's spinning backwards and has to be careful not to collect any cars. He doesn't, fortunately for him on this occasion, but that has put 2 of the front runners in our championship. Well, Daniel Kovacs at the very least. He's back in 10th place behind JT Sawyer right now. And, well, he is certainly going to want to make some places back up, and we'll be very happy about the fact that this is the sprint race and not the endurance race he's gone for a spin.
Yeah, I think you're definitely right, but he did. Oh, looks like we got another accident potentially happen there in the back, as I saw.
You see JT Sawyer is off the track. Let's go and see what's happened to him. Oh, he's just gone for a spin at turn 1 all by himself into the gravel. And, well, has to make his way back onto the tracks. I think, did I see somebody else going off the track there? or was it just JT? I saw Sean Ferreira and Stefan Heinrich off the track, and oh, Sean Ferreira and Stefan Heinrich, so they come together. I think Sean Ferreira manages to keep it going potentially. I thought he might have picked up a bit of wheel damage, but it looks like it's driving straight at the very least, although he has been off track again. I'm not sure what that is for. Oh, I think we might have just seen that moment as maybe he's adjusting to his car with damage there. And, well, high drama last time out for, well, no drama last time out in terms of crashes, and it is Sean Ferreira. He's missing his front end as well there. And, yeah, a good few cars picking up some damage there. Again, we're thankful for the sprint race format, because even though they're at the back now, they will be starting towards the front during the feature, which does award more points. Well, the replays keep going. I can see Kip Blair's been for an incident here. What's happened? Harrison Brinker up the inside. Is he going to go for a dive? Yes, he is. And oh, they both go for a spin. Absolute chaos out there on track today. I have to say, I think that was a bit of a late dive for Harrison there. We can have a little look as this look like all of these passes happening on replays. We can slow it down a little bit, see exactly what happened with Harrison, but I do think he was just a little bit too ambitious there, maybe. I want to go a bit further back, and you can see them coming in here. Harrison is sticking his nose in, and, well, Kip leaves him a bit of room. They almost make contact here, but it's such a short rundown. I just don't think Kip was expecting him to be there.
Yeah, that is a tough one, and it can be kind of hard to keep that race pace, especially in corners like that where things start to tighten up so quickly.
Absolutely, and yeah, you want to go for overtakes. It is a sprint race. It is only half an hour of racing out there on track, and yeah, it is certainly a an ambitious move. You want to get for passes, but yeah, it disadvantaged both of them in that situation. And in fact, Kip Blair is still in front of Harrison Brinker, and the gap is actually 4 seconds between them. So certainly it hasn't worked out for Harrison, and it has very much put him down the order in 7th place. But for Kip Blair, looks like he's managed to make his way past Egos Varga here. Let's see exactly how that happened. And looks like he just got a better run out of there. Egos on the inside, and Kip just able to break that so much later. Is he going to go up the inside here? Oh, he doesn't even need to bother. He's well ahead there and just pushes his way through nicely indeed.
Really able to handle himself well in that Ford. Usually you see the Porsches being the last of the late breakers, but he's out there and he's putting it down on the track today.
Absolutely, and well, it's very good to see the Mustang be good around here. I usually associate it with the more kind of light and nimble cars of the Porsche, maybe a little bit of the McLaren as well. But yeah, that Mustang going very nicely for him. And I'm seeing Stefan Heinrichs might have had an incident. JT Sawyer managed to get past him. See what happened. He is all by himself on the track right now. He has also got no rear bumper on that Mustang. And, well, what happens here? Is it down under braking? I can see that rear sliding around a little bit, losing that rear downforce. Oh, he just gets onto the grass. And, well, that is sending him spinning. And that's JT Sawyer. And that's how he managed to get past. And it looks like he has head to the pit lane for now. Might be trying to get some repairs during this race.
Yeah, with that rear end missing, you really don't know if there's any sort of wheel damage or suspension damage that can cause that car to almost make it feel like there's no rear wing left on it.
Absolutely. And let me tell you, these GT3 cars do not handle well with no rear wing. I was in a league race just this Thursday at Spa. The normal lap 1 chaos ensued. I lost my rear wing on my Porsche, and I can tell you, some of the corners around Spa are very, very scary indeed, with no rear wing on the back. And yeah, it certainly has an effect on the handling of the car. For Stefan Heinrichs, he decided he'd rather head into the pit lane, get a repair. He is going to be last, but currently first position for that feature race with, well, almost a third of the sprint done already. Certainly looking like Eric and Carsten here are the clear leaders out front.
And, for a lot of people who maybe don't really race a lot or are just fans of watching it, you don't really realize how much downforce and extra handling that rear wing gives you until it's gone. And the car just almost feels like it's on ice skates trying to get it around that track.
Yeah, I mean, maybe you do look at these cars and think, well, they look a little bit like road cars. I don't have a rear wing on my road car, and but yeah, let me tell you, when you're getting at 200 kilometers an hour, you can feel the difference out there for sure. Looking at the, well, sector comparison between Carsten and Eric here. And, well, as the lap goes on, they are pretty evenly matched out there, kind of plus a tenth, minus a tenth, as you go through the various sectors of the lap. Of course, you're expecting the Chev in behind is going to pick up a bit more time in those sectors that have the longer straights, because, of course, he's able to pick up the slipstream. Have noticed, though, that the Porsche doesn't tend to give a massive slipstream to the cars behind, as much as if you've got a massive Mustang in front of you. It really can make a difference. And, well, that Mustang of Rudd School is closing in on this little battle, so I think maybe they're playing a bit safe right now and just trying to pull away. But, well, so far it's not working, as Rudd is coming up to that 2.5 second mark, and, well, coming up on that battle for first position overall.
Yeah, I think you're very right. If you ever, actually take a close look at how that Porsche body is shaped, it kind of lends itself to kind of slicing itself through the air and letting that whole air gap that you'd normally have kind of collapse pretty close behind it. So you got to be almost right up on the back of that Porsche to really feel that difference in the slipstream.
I do think that the final corner here, just your exit there, can really make the difference down that straight, even when you have the slipstream. If you get even a slightly worse exit, you do kind of end up losing more than you ever gain in the slipstream. And yeah, absolutely, that Porsche not giving you too much of that slipstream in the first place. Looks like Eric might be having some connection issues there, as annoying for him as I'm sure it is for Carsten Walter in behind. He's still keeping the pressure on the back of him though, but we're saying he's getting closer. Rudd behind has closed in now pretty substantially within that 2.5 second zone now, and well, you can see it on the sector comparison. We can probably have a little look at their lap times as well, and you can just see how quickly Rudd has been able to close in. 0.3 on lap 5, 8 tenths on lap 6 and 7. And, well, it's only going to be a couple more laps before he's right on the back of them. However, just over 15 minutes to go. He's not got much time to hang around.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. It seems like these Mustangs actually tend to run pretty well around this track. They've got that, that the amount of torque there kind of lends itself to keeping that minimum speed up and being able to gain a lot of that back in the straight. So it seems like this might be a good car choice for this type of track layout.
Yeah, I mean, I was saying earlier, that is certainly surprising. I didn't expect it to be such a powerful car around here, but yeah, Rudd is well, he's up 1 place in his class and up 3 places overall, and maybe wasn't the fastest car in qualifying, but yeah, it looks like in the race he's obviously benefited from incidents of those in front of him, but I mean, certainly he's got the pace to have moved up past them anyway. Say that he only gained 1 tenth on that particular lap, so time is ticking. But yeah, I'm sure that he's going to be able to gain some more back as the laps continue. Well, let's see.
It looks like Eric definitely having some connection issues, and I know I've been in that situation before. As the car behind, it can be very nerve-wracking when the car in front of you starts to blink out, and you don't know whether that next corner is going to have you inside their back seat or just behind them.
That might be a little bit of the reason why maybe Rudd has been closing in on this little battle for the past few laps, because yeah, it can put you off quite a lot, but actually he's lost half a second on this particular lap, so maybe used a bit more of his tyres, or not exactly sure, because I didn't see him make any sort of mistake in that lap as we were watching him go around. Timo Gartner has head for the pit lane, and I know there's somebody saying earlier that some cars are required to pit and some are not. That is the price you pay from picking your car throughout the entirety of the season. Some will be better at fuel and some won't be, and that's the choice you have to make when picking your car out there on track. And I'm not sure if that's for damage for Timo Gartner, whether he's strategically decided to come into the pit lane to start at the front for the feature race, or whether he does need some fuel. He's taking an awful long time, and well, a lot more time than I would expect to take on a couple litres of fuel to get to the end of the race. So I think on this occasion he might be repairing some damage to head back out there, or potentially he's going to stay in the pits, although I would have expected him to get out of this car. He hasn't just yet. In fact, I've seen a few off-track excursions for Timo. One of them was 10 seconds long, and oh dearie me, it looks like he's gone for a spin, and he's actually got quite the bonk on that front nose that I don't think he had before in that Porsche. It looks like maybe, I mean, looks like maybe if he was driving a road car, he'd maybe driven into a bollard or something. while trying to park. But I'm not sure if we saw where exactly he picked up that damage. I'm just trying to see now. We can go a bit further back and, well, he certainly... Oh, no, he does have it there. Maybe he picked it up somewhere earlier in the race that we didn't see. We saw him getting involved in an incident, but it didn't look like he had the damage at the time. But, well, that'll be why he has head into the pit lane, and, well, he is still in the pit lane, so he will be dead last in this race. Has to be careful to do 75% of the laps of the leader. You can't just sit in the pit lane, and, well, we're coming down with 10 minutes to go in this race, so he is going to want to head back out there, but surely would have had his fast repair to use as well, actually, thinking about it. So, yeah, I think that maybe he's decided to park up and go for the points in the feature race. Oh, looks pretty definitive at this point, as Timo Gartner staying in the pit lane, and indeed, looks like good gains from Rudd Skål on this lap. He's back within that 2.5 second window now, with just over 10 minutes to go. We're probably looking at 7 or 8 laps, maybe a little bit less out there. It is Carsten Walter now is getting very close to the back of Eric here in the number 63 machine, and indeed, however frustrating it might be for Eric, blipping in and out every now and then, just like then, he does need to find his way past on track, or hope that Porsche has pushed a bit too much. He's going to need to save some fuel.
Yeah, it can be, especially when you're in a P2 fighting for P1 position, it can be very very nerve-wracking to make a decision on when to pass when that front car disappears. You just don't know if they're going to know that you're there also, because in some cases, you know, you'll lose sight of the cars behind being the car that blinks out as well.
Absolutely, and he's just staying within that 0.3 radius, and yeah, I do feel for him a little bit. Having that blinking car in front of him must not be a good experience in order to try and race and pass him. Just dropped back 0.4 now, and well, 8 minutes to go on the clock. And he really needs to try something soon, because Rudd is once again on that charge to make his way back to the back of this battle. And, well, Walter might be losing a position rather than gaining one if he leaves it for too much longer. And oh, I think Rud School off the road behind him. Looks like he's maybe lost some time back there. Let's see what happens. He was pushing hard to catch this battle, and oh, he just slides himself off the road. That's not going to help his pursuit in order to get close. And you can see right there, Kit Blair, absolutely no problems pouncing on an opportunity like that as he moves right in behind to try and gain another position forwards in this race. He's in the position he started overall, but he has gained one position in his class according to my display. I'm not completely sure that is true, but well, he'd like to gain another position on the back of Rud School here, and it is Mustang on Mustang, so no car differences between them, but it looks like that mistake from Rud has really cost him, although quite a big scuff to the front of Kip's car, which is going to make it quite difficult, I think. Now around the outside, looks Kit Blair, well that is going to turn to the inside now as they race down towards turn number 2, and straight past goes Kit Blair. Not too much of a fight by Carsten Walter there, but that was quite the overspeed he had on the car behind. I want to have a little look back at that if we can't. I don't think we can, unfortunately, of how much extra speed he had. Actually we do, we have it here. Right, looks well, I was going to say that Rudd maybe backed off there, but I'm not completely sure he did. He certainly keeping on the back of him for the next couple of corners. It might just have been the ability to brake later for Kip that managed him to get him in front on this occasion. And if we go back to them live now, we can see that, well, Rudd is very close in behind him, and 5 minutes to go. Maybe he just wanted that slipstream. But the next time around, as off the track goes Kit Blair, and, well, he's not going to pick up a slow down penalty on that occasion, but it's very easy to pick up a slow down around there. And here they are, together close once again. That scuff on the front of Kip's car, not going to help him in a straight line. And let's see what happens as they come off the last corner here, as it looks like maybe Carsten Walter is getting ready to perform an overtake on the blinking number 63. He's gone again, he's back again, and he's going to be able to make a pass. It's also difficult to know where that car is going to be, and I really do feel for Carsten Walter as he looks down the inside, but the Porsche is defending and there's nowhere for him to go. And it is as you were for Kit Blair and Rudd School. The number 181 having to stay behind for now as they head into the final couple of laps. Well, we're looking at 2 laps to go, and it is Kit Blair. He has to head into the pit lane for some fuel in this feature race, and doesn't look like thus far Rudd School has needed to. With 2 laps to go, Kit Blair is going to be heading quite far back in the grid. They are in exactly the same cars, but maybe that extra damage. Harrison Brinker also has to head into the pit lane for some fuel at the end of this race. And, well, that is quite the turn-up for those two drivers. And we'll see. It looks like they're still trundling down the pit lane, how long their pit stops are. For Kit Blair, he has stopped in the box, maybe for a bit longer than I was expecting. And Harrison Brinker has overtaken him.
He picked up a black flag there.
Oh, on the entry to the pit lane it must have been. Am I right, Zach? I didn't have one before that I could see. How unfortunate.
Yeah, it looks like
for
he
him.
picked it up just on the entrance, so I'm guessing just came into that pit lane just a little bit too hot and picked up that speeding on entrance.
How unfortunate for Kit Blair. I was about to say that Rudd School, who is battling with, hasn't had to come into the pit lane, and it might have been because he didn't have the damage on the front of his car. There is Eric Gerhard here who's having to defend from Carsten Walter, as I believe they're about to pick up the white flag and make it one lap to go in this sprint race. Down the inside, what a dive from Carsten Walter there. He does pick up first place, and I'm pretty sure that Eric is still on the road. But oh my god, that was a dive out of nowhere. I was riding on board with him and thought surely he's not going to make it through there without having an accident. But Rudd does have to head into the pit lane with one lap to go. The two at the front don't. Daniel Kovacs doesn't have to either. What a dive for Carsten Walter there.
But a dive, great move to be able to get that car slowed down. I think in his head it's one of those, he's blinking, I gotta find the right time and just send it and try to get by. If I keep, waiting or being cautious, I'm never going to be able to get that position. So it looks like he finally kind of decided, hey, I'm going for it, this is the time, and he made it work.
Absolutely made it work, and it looks like Kit Blair is staying in the pit lane. I assume to strategically start in second place during the feature race. Akos Varga is coming out of the pits. He's going to come out in 5th place in front of Harrison Brinker, and indeed that was a little bit of a move or we both die. Once this race has concluded, I want to go and have a little look back at that particular move. We do have a 5-minute warm-up, at least I believe so, between the feature race and between the sprint race and the feature race. If I'm not mistaken, and I may well be. Stefan Heinrichs is into the pit lane now as well, and well, it looks like this is the order they're going to finish in, unless there's a late dive coming from Eric here, a little bit like Carsten did, but Carsten knows what's happening, and he's right on that inside there and doesn't even give him space to make a dive there as Stefan Heinrichs heads out of the pit lane, and I do believe we're going to see the checkered flag come out as he wins the sprint race here in Imola with that very impressive move down the inside. But what's happening here with Akos Varga and Harrison Brinker? Akos is having to defend from the fast-charging Harrison Brinker in 6th place. He'll be quite disappointed how far back he stands currently. And, well, it is the Porsche who is defending right now, but it's only half a second. Is Harrison going to try a move like we saw before? Let's see what happens as we head into the final couple of corners. Just nowhere for Harrison to dive there, and well, that was quite the explosive finale towards that that sprint race there, and well, congratulations to both of them, I think, for making their way through without any incident between them. Looks like Katie Sawyer might have just run out of fuel in his McLaren at the end of that race, but doesn't make a difference to his overall finishing position. And indeed, we do have a 5-minute warm-up now between the heat and the sprint race. I want to go and have a little look back at that move down the inside, and well, I'm not sure what the best angle to watch it from might be, as Stefan Heinrichs does come across the line, finishes at 9th place in the race in front of Kit Blair and Timo Gartner, who I do well suspect stayed in the pit lane to head for that warm-up. And well, you can see some water on the track surface there. Now had a shower between the sprint and feature race, and now the drivers have to adapt to something absolutely completely different out there, Zach.
I think this 5 minutes is going to come in handy to try to get your car out there and just get a feeling for exactly how wet this track is going to be.
Absolutely. And unfortunately to me, it looks like we've lost that replay of them getting through there. I think maybe in this 5-minute break, I might well just try and rewind completely to go for that dive that he did up the inside. Let me see if I can't find it for you all. And sorry, it wasn't Kit Blair who went for that dive, was it? It was Carsten Walter. And let's just have a little look at that from offboard. And well, I can bring it to you all now as we can hit play on that. And just look. Oh, you could see the dive and actually blinked out, did Eric there, and maybe that made it a bit easier. But you could see he tried to defend, but it all maybe came a little bit too late, I think. And, well, Carsten Walter, actually quite a clean move when you look from it off-board. Because, yeah, the move was actually, from Eric, was actually when Carsten was already alongside him, so didn't have much chance to defend.
Yeah, I mean, he definitely made that the right way. He sat behind him until as late as he possibly could, pulled his car out before Eric had a chance to respond, and was able to get his car in there. And, no contact. He got it slowed down. It looks like a great move to me.
Absolutely. And, well, we are in that warm-up phase now. So let's just have a look at the results of our heat then from that heat race. Just to recap them for you, it is Carsten Walter who did take victory by just under half a second. Daniel Kovacs 7 seconds behind, with Rudd School in P4. Akos Varga makes up P5 and Harrison Brinker in P6. Sean Ferreira, P7, and then it is our train of M-Class drivers of JT Sawyer, Stefan Heinrichs, and Kip Blair, before Timo Gartner rounds off the end of your grid 9 laps down. And I think that means he's not going to score any points. He did not complete 75% of the leaders' laps out there. But, well, it is a completely different race now. Not just because they are going to be heading out there on for a longer race. It's a completely wet track, and the positions are inverted from that sprint race. So a completely set of skills needed out there for driving in the wet. Not all about going so fast. It can very much be about keeping it on the road. And, of course, the race is an hour and a half long. That, well, you're going to want to be able to have that perfect point for changing between the wet and the dry tyres.
Yeah, it's one of those things where it can be a little rough when you get the rain like you do now between these two races, because you just had 30 minutes to get comfortable with the car, comfortable with the track. You think you're moving faster, and then all of a sudden the track is wet, slippery, and something completely different than what you were just on.
Indeed. And, yeah, it's only 5 minutes you've got, and we're pretty much at the end of that 5 minutes already for this warm-up. And yeah, you've really got that 5 minutes to get the track in your head. Completely different braking points, completely different lines, in fact. And well, as you just saw from the rear end of Harrison's McLaren, completely different levels of grip out there. And you can see it's not a monsoon out there, but there's certainly enough water on the track to form some puddles and perform some spray. So these drivers are going to have to keep it very neat indeed at the start of this race, because for those at the back, it's going to be pretty impossible to see a car if it's spun across the road.
Yeah, I mean, it's looking to me like as these drivers go through some of these corners, it is quite puddled up there. So it looks like between the two sessions, we actually got quite a bit of rain, and it's going to be interesting to see how these drivers interact, while that track dries up. We do have an hour and a half, so at some point, these drivers will have to switch back to dries. We'll just have to see how they strategize that and see when this track starts to dry up and create that environment where they can get back on those dries, get back to something they're more comfortable with, and get back to putting down those lap times.
Well, the sun is now out, Zach, and while I can still see quite a shine on the track, that little bit of time progression has helped dry up the track ever so slightly, but I can actually see quite a few shiny points as well. So maybe it is going to be one of these tracks where you get on the puddles and it's a disaster, and maybe it's a bit more drivable on that racing line once they've cleared up a bit of the water, and that's going to make it even more difficult to know the transition, because if you go into a puddle in the dry, well, I think you're also going into the wall. So
yeah, absolutely. It's like 80% of the track can be dry, but those puddles can mean everything when it comes to a track like this.
Well, you can see those rain lights blinking there, and well, I can tell you our starting grid is going to be Timo Gartner, who starts up front with Kip Blair in behind him, Stefan Heinrichs a bit further back, and JT Sawyer in P4, Sean Ferreira making up P number 5, Harrison Brinker in 6th, Akos Varga 7th, Rud Skall 8th, Daniel Kovacs 9th, and we saw the battle between Eric and Karsten. They're going to be in 10th and 11th at the back of the grid in order to form up for the end of that race. I think it's going to be very interesting to see how they play this, as well, I thought that Harrison was pretty much going to head into another car there, but that was just some very aggressive tyre weaving, and well, I can see right now everyone's on wet tyres, and looking at the track, I think they've all made the right decision.
Yeah, absolutely. I think if you're risking it and you're coming out on dries here, you've made a bad choice, especially because it looks like most of the rain is puddling up in the corners, which is right where you don't want it to be.
Absolutely, and the track kind of looks, I wouldn't say dry, but it looks not so wet in some sections compared to what we saw in that little warm-up session there. Of course, the sun is out, so the track is going to dry up during this session. But yeah, it's those puddles that I think are really going to, just looking here, you can just see it on the inside. And yeah, it's going to be difficult. But yeah, nobody on dries, everybody on wets for the start of this race, as the pace car is about to peel in, and it's going to be Timo Gartner who leads you away on this, well, very tricky track surface. Has to maintain pace car speed until the green, and he hasn't. He's jumped the start, Zach, and well, you're not allowed to do that in DWREC. There's the green flag, but he's jumped the start there. He hasn't led a start here before, but I think the stewards are going to want to investigate that, and I think JT Sawyer's got a black flag as a result of it, and I think that might be protested to the stewards.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right.
He's taken away there, and yeah, it looks like JT Sawyer has got a black flag as a result of that jump start by Timo Gartner. Zach, are you able to confirm that is indeed a black flag for JT?
It is a black flag for him here, so that's gonna be rough, and that's definitely gonna be a jump start of the race.
Indeed. Well, that is, yeah, a jump start. I think that was actually from the fact that that Timo Gartner got away too quickly off the line. He did not wait for the green flag before he took off, and I don't think JT actually did anything wrong on that start. And I don't.
No.
He did not, or he did. Zach, are you there?
Yes, sorry, it looks like I had my mic disconnect and reconnect there. I am back here with you.
Did he make any sort of error on that stop, JT?
No, I think he was just waiting for the normal start. Everyone kind of took off, and then he's going to pick up a penalty because of that, the way that race started there. So nothing I could see on his end that would have caused, a meaningful black flag to pop up for him.
Well, he's back in P9 right now as the track conditions are looking like they're not terrible out there, and he has head into the pit lane in order to score that black flag. Indeed, looks like there is going to be a jump start that occurred for Timo Gartner, and indeed we'll have that reviewed by the stewards. But right now it is going to be Timo Gartner who leads the race. He's built a 1.4 second gap to Stefan Heinrichs behind, and then even further back is going to be Kit Blair. But because of that reverse grid, it is going to start to kind of compress the grid a bit more together, especially in this drying track. And well, you can see right back there, a little bit further in the pack, is Harrison Brinker there, and indeed, there's quite a melee happening there with Kit Blair trying to defend all the way back to Harrison, and Timo, who's off the road. He has fallen foul. It was a jump start for him. Did he just get a bit too zealous on that throttle in these wet conditions? He touches the white line there. Looks absolutely fine to me, and it just spins the back end round in that Porsche. He's sideways across the track, and now, ooh, you've got to choose a way to go and hope everybody knows which way you're going. But that's him out of the lead almost as quickly as he was in it. Looks like Carsten Walters been able to get past Eric here a little bit faster than he did during that feature race. And, well, unfortunately for him, he's now in a DRX Sport sandwich. And he's maybe having the Porsche Veikos Varga back him up a little bit in a legal way, of course, as Eric is right on his rear end and is going to want to make a pass. He's currently on the inside. Going to stay the inside, heading down here, down into turn number 2, alongside. He blinks out, he blinks in. Is he going to be able to make that move stick on the inside line? No, because that water really does make a difference there. He's blinking his headlights, but I don't think he should be, because, yeah, I don't think that Carsten really knew where he was jumping in and out. And am I still seeing on my screens that JT Sawyer has a black flag, Zach? I'm not exactly sure what's happened there.
It is, he just had himself a little bit of a slowdown there. So no black flag, he was able to get that taken care of, so he's able to stay out and keep himself on the track.
So, well, he's 52 seconds off the back of Timo Gartner as it stands. However, it's a rainy race, anything can happen, and a well-timed switch to those dry tyres. Only 30 seconds or more compared to a bad one, I believe, for the first time this season as well. Oh, and round goes Eric Gerpard. He's going for a spin, and he's managed to keep it on the road. Well, not the road, out of the gravel in Aqua Minerale, and he's racing alongside Sean Ferreira there. I think Eric has got a slowdown, so I think he'd be well poised to let Sean Ferreira pass, serve that slowdown, because he is blinking in and out a little bit, and well, that has certainly not gone his way. He was battling with the race leader, Carsten Walter, but now 2 places in front. Our sprint race leader, should I say. That Porsche of Akos there looked like it struggled to make its way out of the final turn. And, well, Carsten Walter right on the back of them here. And it's not a great place to be, as if we look on inside, oh, maybe it's not a terrible place to be right there, as he looks round the outside, doesn't want to have a George Russell and Valtteri Bottas moment. He's round the outside, but this time it is the Porsche on the inside who manages to defend from the Chev behind. And Carsten is going to have to stay behind for at least a couple more corners.
Yeah, you know, this can be rough, especially with those puddles. Like, when you hit them, not only does it make the car more slippery, but sometimes, especially if you're slowing down, you can actually get the front end of that car that'll actually dig into those puddles and cause that car to slow down much
Oh, and
harder than you
Carsten
would expect.
Walter
Oh,
gives a
no.
punt to Akos Varga there. I think that potentially that might have been Walter's fault. He just kind of put his nose up the inside. Let's see what happened from up above, and he just bonks into the back of him. I think maybe he caught a puddle. Give him the benefit of the doubt, because there are a lot of puddles on the inside of that track. I think he might just have caught a puddle on the inside there and locked up a bit, but I think that's going to be obvious once it comes to the steward's room that that was Carsten's fault down the inside.
Yeah, definitely. You gotta kind of be aware of what's going on, especially when you're coming into those very, very tight corners there. You don't want to be, too close to where those puddles are, cause yourself a lockup, or, maybe you brake at your normal dry line and realize you just can't quite get that car slowed down enough.
Talking of not getting the car slowed down enough, it looks like Rud Skål has been off the road there once again for the Mustangs, all getting themselves in a little bit of trouble today, but he manages to make it through with no damage. He's currently down into 8th place.
Yeah, those Mustangs are quite heavy. You get those tires a little wet, and you get them on a wet surface, and it can be really, really hard to handle those cars.
Well, here is an interesting situation for you then. We've got Stefan Heinrichs, who I don't believe has ever led a race here in DWREC. Kit Blair in behind. They're both in Mustangs, both wide cars, both good in a straight line, but they have the absolute charge of Harrison in behind them. It's a wet track, so it's going to be very difficult, I think, for Harrison to make an overtake on these cars, which on a regular day would be much slower than him.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. You got to really plan ahead for when you're going to be able to make these dives. And especially with how wide those Mustangs are, it's going to put quite a bit of water onto that windshield, which can make it even harder to figure out where you're at, where the holes are, and where you need to be going.
And of course, when you're so far up, you're not going to be wanting to give away that position so easily to Harrison. And, well, if you can avoid it, you want to stay in those 1st and 2nd place respectively. And yeah, it's a thin track. So, yeah, I think it's going to be a bit of a struggle for him to get past. And it's a long race to think about. Don't want to get yourself involved in an incident in the first 10 minutes. Kip Blair coming out of the final corner. Looks like Harrison potentially getting a better run than him out of that final corner. Looks like maybe Kip picked up a little bit of a puddle there. And where is Kip going to go? He's looking to the inside right now. He is going to be pretty well done to stay there because he will have more grip on the brakes. What is Harrison able to do? Absolutely nothing. That's astounding for such a fast driver. He's having to stick behind, but how long's that going to last? As he's going to try the switch back through here, and now it's Harrison. Oh, a little bit of door banging between them. It is Harrison who's going to be on that slightly grippier inside line. Needs to avoid any puddles, though, and he doesn't. And it's going to be, once again, Kip Blair in front. And now, well, there's a lot of puddles on the inside of this particular hairpin. Who's going to come out on top? Kip Blair pushing him to the outside. Once again, the switchback for Harrison. And maybe you're starting to feel an inevitability of Harrison getting past, but no, he has to stick behind in the McLaren for just one more corner where he looks to the outside. Oh, and he goes for a little wiggle and actually loses time there all by himself. Oh no, Kip Blair's round as well. I thought he wasn't going to get past, but Kip Blair going off the road seemingly all by himself. There was a little wiggle there, and I think he just took a bit too much speed depending from Harrison. Well, Harrison's passed, but not really an on-track overtake to speak of.
It almost looks like maybe there was a little bit of netcode there with the way that Harrison's car jerked away like that. I don't know that caused Kit Blair's, spin, but I think it definitely might have caused Harrison to take a little bit of that wide corner there. I'm not too sure. We might have to see after the race if we're able to get a chat with him.
Indeed, that was very strange indeed. But those kind of wiggles can just pop up when you're pushing hard and maybe hit a puddle, especially when you're racing someone. You're going to be kind of offline a little bit and not know where all the puddles are out there on the track surface. Let's have a little look at what's going on a little bit further back in the grid. We've got Timo Gartner, who's trying to get past Akos Varga right now. We saw that spin for Timo, and doesn't look like any damage like he picked up in the last race, but we still have 3 Pro Class drivers in the bottom half of our field. They will certainly be wanting to gain some more positions forward as this race unfolds, and maybe not battle each other too hard, because it is still Stefan Heinrichs who started this race towards the front. He is, well, on still first, and you can really start to see a difference, I think, out there on the track. See some shiny puddles and some very matte track, and certainly starting to dry out the track surface, but getting those puddles gone might take a little bit longer. Oh, and Stefan Heinrichs goes for a spin just as we switch to Harrison Brinker. I thought he was going to have another tough time to make his way past an AM class driver just with that Mustang, but unfortunately for Stefan there, he goes for a little spin and has to settle for 3rd place for now. How unfortunate, but if you're Harrison, you're thinking, well, 2 drivers have just chucked themselves out of the way.
Yeah, you know, both being Fords, I think it's kind of, you know, the same thing we were saying earlier. Those cars can be quite the handful, especially when the track gets a little wet with how heavy they are. You hit a little puddle or you get a little bit of a wiggle, and those can be kind of hard to keep a handle on.
Indeed, we were saying how well they were going around here. That, of course, was in the dry conditions. And, well, it's going to be very interesting to see whether the pace does come back to them a little bit more as they start to switch onto dry tyres in, I don't know, just looking at that track surface, you're probably looking at least another half an hour of wet tyres, at least from my experience. We can bring up the weather here. 17 degrees the track temperature, 19 degrees being the air temperature, with, well, we're looking at a humidity of 60%. Not the fastest drying track in the world. It's not like we're somewhere like Sebring or Road America where maybe the intense sun will dry the track out, but I think, yeah, maybe another half an hour or so for some of these drivers on wet tyres. But I think, given the sprint race, means that they're going to be past their first pit stop, and, well, are going to maybe have to make some decisions about how much fuel they put in, about whether they think it's going to dry out enough for their next stop.
Yeah, you know, I'm thinking it's definitely going to be one of those potentially you put on some fresh wets, short fuel just enough to, you know, get through that tire change, and then come out, run a couple laps so that track finishes drying up, and then you'll be right back in the pits to put those dries on.
Yeah, absolutely, and it can be, I think it can be very hard to actually make a call about when it is time for dry tyres out there. When you're not driving the car, you can't feel how much grip is coming to you. I mean, we're expecting the track to get faster and faster every lap here. There's no rain that's going to be coming down. The sun is out as down the inside tries Eric, and he tries the move that Carsten Walter tried on him in the sprint race. I think there was a tiny bit of contact there, but Eric makes it work, and he's up into P5, and I think this battle between these two is, well, transcending races as well, and maybe transcending their work as they head up the grid together towards, well, Harrison Brinker is quite a way away at this point, just for the way the field's spread out.
Yeah, I mean, these two are really going all in against each other, and it is interesting too, because we're kind of in the same situation with these two, where the Porsche tends to drive better in the wet. The Corvette definitely easier than the Ford, but still not one of the easiest cars to handle on the wet track.
I absolutely love the Porsche in the wet. It is such a good car to drive in, especially those kind of transition conditions when you're going between a wet to dry track or a dry to wet track, and it's not always completely obvious which tyre you should be on. Just seems to excel in kind of like, it's so light and maneuverable that might cost you some time during dry conditions. The Porsche just excels in them, as we're seeing Kip Blair here. He's got a train of cars behind him. He's also got Stefan Heinrichs in front of him, and well, let's have a little look from the rear end of his car. There is certainly still some thin, shiny puddles out there on the track, but I am starting to see a kind of drying line. It might be a little bit difficult to see at high speed when you can see all the water vapor, but as we slow down here into in here, there's a puddle on the outside. Oh, and Kip Blair goes for another spin, just showing how difficult that Mustang is to handle, and I think there might have been a little collision in there between them. Let's just have a little look at that. I think Kip Blair might have tried to get it back on the road, and a few cars making contact there. Let's see what happens. I think he just goes for a bit too much. He tries to drive it back onto the track, and oh no, that's not, it's not really a rejoint, but he has kind of made, who was that in there? Eric Gerhard, who is into the pit lane now. He's lost his front end, and is probably going to be using that fast repair, and unfortunate to see that happen to Kip, but the kind of thing you see when you're in a slightly more difficult to control car in well, difficult conditions.
Yeah, and that could be one that makes its way onto the steward's bench. It's kind of hard to call that, but you know, it definitely looks like maybe he spins, tries to catch it, hits the gas, and ends up kind of putting himself in a position where he's rolling back onto the track. Makes me wonder if maybe if he'd held his brakes there, if Eric would have been able to get around. It's going to be a tough call.
Indeed, I do not envy the job of any stewards at any time when you're dealing with real life races. Oh, I can just see from riding on board how difficult that Mustang is to control, but it looks like Sean Ferreira's made a mistake in front as well. Means that Kip Blair hasn't lost a massive amount of time in his battle with him as he breaks down through the chicane. And actually, we've seen Harrison Brinker off the road. It doesn't stop. What's happened to Harrison here? He was comfortably out in the lead. Was he pushing just a little bit too much? He goes on the brakes in that McLaren. He goes for a turn. He goes for a turn. And I think he might have just taken a bit too much curb in these conditions, facing the wrong way, and has kind of got to roll backwards again in order to push his way forwards in this race. You see Carsten Walter going through, Stefan Heinrich and Kip Blair. That puts Harrison Brinker back down to 6th place where he started this race.
Yeah, and I think unfortunately for Harrison, he made that exact same mistake just the lap before. So doing that 2 laps in a row is definitely going to lose you some time.
Let's have a little look. I promise you, if it looks the same, it is a different incident, as he goes round for a spin once again. And indeed, you're right, Zach.
Exactly the same.
And he was very close to kind of reversing into the tyre barrier there and losing his rear wing. But yeah, you don't want to be making that mistake twice in a row, just taking a bit too much curb in that McLaren. And, well, that has not done him particularly well. I think it's put him about 10 seconds or so off the lead that he had comfortably by 5 seconds just a couple of laps ago. Kip Blair showing how difficult that Mustang is, especially when you catch a puddle only with one wheel. It's going to make it super difficult.
Yeah, you know, even as
another
the track
car off the road.
out.
Sorry, Zach. I think Stefan Heinrichs off the road there. Once again, in that Mustang. What's happened to him? Saw it happen a little bit earlier on in the race that he let Harrison through. I think he might have just touched that white line or a puddle on the inside there. And, yeah, that's got him facing across the direction of travel. And you've got to be careful not to catch anyone. And good for him. Doesn't catch anyone on this occasion. And I'm also seeing an incident for Timo Gartner here as well. What is going on with these track conditions? What happens to Timo? He's heading towards that puddle. He misses it. It's just that rear end. They all seem to be struggling with keeping that rear end in the right direction in these mixed conditions. Everyone's still on wet tyres out there, but just a struggle for some of these drivers.
Yeah, I think that the track's getting to that state now where, maybe it's dry on the straights, but as you watch some of these drivers go through these corners, it is still puddled up on the inside of those corners and right on that paint. So where you'd think normally, hey, the track's drying, I can start to take a little bit more curb, you're realizing, nope, there's still a lot of water on these inside corners. The paint is still very wet, and it's causing these cars to take little trips and circles.
Oh, we just saw that with Kit Blair there, that he went to brake for turn 2, and his car just kind of kept going, that maybe, yeah, you look at the track surface, it looks dry, but those puddles, a little bit more moisture, catching some of these drivers out. Of course, another thing to worry about is if you do have that situation with the track drying, is that, there's a point where your wets will start to overheat. And that can be more tricky than driving in the rain itself, because you go through this kind of transition period where it's tricky because you're driving in the rain. It gets easier because it grips up, but then it gets tricky again because your wets are starting to overheat on a drying track, but it's not quite ready for dry tires.
Yeah, it can be really tough, especially on tracks like this, where you can kind of see it as they drive through. There are some parts of the track that are exposed constantly to that sun, maybe drying out a little quicker. But then you got some parts of these tracks where it's actually got quite a bit of tree cover, causing some shade, which could actually make those small sections of the track dry that much slower, which can turn this track into, quite a difficult one with managing the dry spots, the wet spots, and exactly when to transition to those dry tires.
And there is a lot of reliance here on that sun. 11 cars going around the track. It's not going to be an IMSA race, and they're all GT3 cars as well. It's not going to be an IMSA race where generally you will get the LMP2s and the GTPs that are kind of picking up and sucking up a lot more water off the track surface and helping it dry. You are relying a lot more on the sun, and 11 cars around here, not a massive amount to dry it up, and all kind of taking the same racing line, starting to form those train tracks where it is drying, but only in specific spots. And that's going to make it super difficult out there, as we're seeing Harrison try and make his way past Kit Blair once more, but Kit Blair's giving absolutely nothing. But has he gone a little bit too deep in through that chicane? But he does now have the inside line, but Harrison is going to be wise to that, is he? He's going to maybe get a better run, but he's still stuck behind the Mustang, looking up the inside for now, but Kip is wiser to that. He has got a bit of damage on the rear of that Mustang. Who's going to come out on top on this occasion? A bit more grip, I think, for Kit Blair around the outside, but he runs onto that AstroTurf, which is going to be very damp indeed. Hasn't had any sort of drying, but manages to stay in front of the Pro Class driver.
Yeah, Harrison definitely not showing any mercy on this wet track, as he just keeps kind of trying to stick his nose in there, find a hole or cause some nerves for the driver in front, and maybe force him to make a mistake on this already difficult track.
Well, it worked for him against, Kip and Stefan Heinrichs a bit earlier on in this race. He just had two for the price of one of drivers throwing themselves out the way due to the kind of pressure he was putting on them. And he's hoping it'll work again, as a little bit deep goes Kit Blair there, and he's going to want to get an excellent exit out of here. It looks like he might have missed the apex. You can see the back end of that Mustang moving around a hell of a lot more than the McLaren. And is this going to be Harrison's opportunity to make a pass? Looking on board with him, it doesn't look like the spray is too awful. Oh, until you catch a puddle where you absolutely get a massive amount of spray as down the inside tries Harrison. Is he going to make anything work? No, the Mustang's just able to kind of be in the right place and stay ahead of what, as I said earlier, is on a regular day, a much faster driver.
Oh, looks like he's able to get himself on the inside and actually make that pass work, at least for a moment.
I think he might have got it, but that's a very unusual place to see a pass around here, and maybe that's why it works, because Kip just wasn't expecting him to go up the inside there. And, well, Harrison manages to wake his way past. Let's have a look at that from above. He is defending the inside as Kip, but he brakes so much later than the McLaren, and the McLaren is just able to squeeze its way through. And, well, once he's in front, he's kind of staying there because he can defend that inside line that Kip was loving so much.
Yeah, and it's a great camera view there as well, where you can actually see that dry line starting to form, and it gives you kind of a better idea of just how wet this track actually is compared to what it looks like from the outside.
Yeah, we've got these very kind of low angle cameras compared to the lap. But yeah, as soon as you go up to kind of a helicopter level camera like we do now, you can see a bit of a dry line forming in places. But yeah, you can see that the track is also quite wet and slippery out there still. We're half an hour in. I think you would probably be a fool to try dry tyres at these first rounds of pit stops. But I'm not driving the cars, so maybe I'm completely wrong.
I'd be willing to agree with you there. I mean, the track state has kind of stayed the same for the last maybe 10 minutes here. The track is still a very low 16 degrees. We have a little bit of wind, but not too much. So, you know, the track temperature, the air temperature, nothing's really lending itself well to drying this track out quickly, except for those spots where the sun is present. So you're kind of just really relying on one aspect of, you know, the environment to help you dry this track out. And like you said, with only 11 drivers, you don't really even have a lot of cars on the track to continuously run and heat that track up and get that dry line forming a little bit quicker.
Yeah, and it just doesn't look like a track that's ready for dry tyres. You especially look around that hairpin we've just been through, and there's so much of a puddle on the inside that maybe you could survive on dry tyres, but as soon as you have to go offline, maybe you're letting through a lapped car or someone's, putting some pressure on you, that you're just going to catch a wheel in there and go for a horrible roller coaster ride across, well, wherever the universe wants to take you, because you very much become a passenger in that scenario. And we are approaching that half an hour mark now, and we should be approaching the first round of pit stops. Be very interesting to see if anybody does take that risk of dry tyres, because I just can't see it working as it currently stands. And well, we've got an hour left of this race. At what point will it become ready for dry tyres?
Yeah, I mean, we got to be looking at least another half a stint of what these drivers have been doing on those wet tires. I'd be very surprised if anyone takes dries on this first pit here.
Well, we've got Stefan Heinrichs is the first driver to come into the pit lane in that Mustang. Very thirsty car for fuel. He is going to drop towards the back of the pack, but of course he will be the first who has made a pit stop. As Sean Ferreira looks to the back of Akos Varga here, see if he can make a pass. Not on this occasion. Seeing Kit Blair has fallen down the order by quite a way. Let's see what's happened to him in that Mustang. Tricky car to drive in these wet conditions. What happens? He's braking, he's braking, he's braking. He's just getting that rear. It looks more like rear locking on entry that is really causing a struggle. And you almost saw Stefan Heinrichs kind of slide into him there. And yeah, super tricky if you're driving that Mustang out there, it seems today.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like, yeah, I think you're right. It's like you get on those brakes, and especially in those like more downhill corners, it can be very hard to get that car slowed down without locking up those tires, especially as they heat up. It gets a little bit easier to lock them up in those.
Absolutely. And, well, dry tyre gamble. Don't think anybody is maybe brave enough at this moment in time. It is only Stefan Heinrichs who's been in for his regular pit stop as it stands, but we're expecting an absolute flurry of pit stops to come in the next couple of laps. We can pop this out and then have a look at the tyre compounds as well, as Eric has been in the pit lane I think that might have been earlier on in the race for a bit of damage as far as I'm aware. But, well, let's see what happens over the next couple of laps of who makes their way in and who might take that gamble out there as Timo Gartner heads into the pit lane in his Porsche. If there's a car I'd want to be driving out there, dry tyres on a wet track, it would be the Porsche. We'll see what they do as we've got 3 into the pit lane now. Kip Blair is in, Akos Varga is in. That promotes Sean Ferreira, 4th place for the time being. And it's Kip Blair. He's on dry tyre, Zach.
Yeah, it's looking like he's made that compound change. It'll be very interesting to see how that Ford handles these other tires.
And Rod School also heading onto those dry compound tyres. This is going to be very interesting, not only for us, but for those drivers out there who want to, kind of get the data about whether the dry tyre is good right now. Let's ride on board with him, hopefully not anywhere close to any barriers, as he's having to take it very timidly indeed down into turn 2. Not only are they dry tyres on a wet track, they're cold dry tyres on a wet track.
Looking like Karsten Walter has pulled over and towed himself. Not sure if he's just given up on the race or if he's waiting for maybe some damage repair. I don't see anything else on the reports to show that he's had any damage. So we'll have to see if he comes back out of the track or if he puts himself out for the day.
He wasn't going terribly in this race. And yeah, it just looks like he pulls up to the side of the road. Could have had some sort of equipment or personal issue that meant he had to get out of the car reasonably quickly. And whoa, Harrison Brinker, he's on the dry tyres, Zach.
Very interesting. So it looks like from what I can see, we've got 3 cars that have taken that dry tire gamble. Maybe they're seeing or feeling something that we're not, like that dry tire or that dry line is just a little bit more formed up.
Sean Ferreira has also decided to go for the dry compound tyres. I mean, Kip Blair has lost a whole host of places on the dries. And, well, apart from JT, who came in for a very early pit stop, he's only got 1 car behind him, and that's also another car that's on dry tyres. And I wonder if some of these drivers have thought, well, somebody's gone on dry tyres, I might as well go as well. Or maybe there's just a bit of a warm-up period. But, yeah, I think that's a mistake, and I can see Red School has gone for a little off-track. I think this must be at the last couple of corners here. Indeed it is, and he just goes for a little spin on those dry tyres. And, I mean, surely the amount of time you're gaining on dries, it can't undo the amount of time you lose in just kind of little spins like that come from being on the tyres so early.
Yeah, maybe that's the idea, is they're hoping that they can kind of, if you can keep it smooth and keep it straight in the dry tires, when everyone else comes in to change those compounds, that they'll be the winners there. But I mean, it's definitely going to be a tricky couple laps to keep it on there and make sure you don't spin or hit any of these puddles that are still present out on the track.
Oh, mounting those curbs looks difficult. It looks like Kip Blair here maybe getting up to speed just a little bit and having a bit more confidence in those dry tyres. I say as he clips a bit of grass and has to go wide into Ekman just before that moment, looked like he might have had a bit more pace. But indeed, I've got a theory for you, Zach, of Karsten Walter, because he has back out onto the track. He's also on dry tyres. May I suggest to you, he forgot to pit and might have been close to running out of fuel.
Yeah, maybe he didn't realize that he was almost out and just ran out of fuel and decided that was the best place to stop and tow to get back there and get taken care of.
Now, what's happening with Kit Blair here? Has he got a black flag, potentially, Zach? And is that potentially from incident points as he goes for a spin around? And I would have thought a slowdown would have gone by now as he reverses backwards into the gravel in that Mustang. And he has a tricky spot by the pit entry. He's heading into the pit lane.
Definitely has a black flag. I'm willing to agree with that bet with you, and I think it might be due to that incident limit.
Indeed. And, well, he's into the pit lane. Is he going to stop in his box and go for wet tyres again? It would be quite the admission of failed strategy. I don't think he is going to stop in his box. I think he might drive all the way through as JT Sawyer now heads into the pit lane, and he is going to come in for his regular stop. Of course, he had that black flag at the beginning of the race that's put him so far off the back of the field. What's he going to do? Is he going to stay on wets? I feel like if he does, he can really gain on the likes of Sean Ferreira, Rudd School, Carsten Walter and Kit Blair, who are currently all at the back struggling their way around the track on these dries.
It looks like he switched to dry tires as well.
Well, there is quite the gamble happening out there on track. And we've got about half the field on dries and half the field on wets. Now, he's taken the other way of strategy. I think I would have looked at some of those drivers out there and gone, oh, I'll stay on the wets and catch up to them. But it is an equal gamble, I think, to be on the dries. 45 seconds off the back of Kit Blair. What really more does he have to lose in this race?
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right. I mean, with Kit Blair, it looks like he did just take the drive-through. I think, unfortunately, for these cars that have already gone a few laps on these dry tires, it's one of those, you know, you've already wasted the time to get onto the dry tires. Is it worth the extra to have to change back to wets, then change back to dry? You know, you've almost got to bite the bullet now and say, you know what, I've made this decision, I got to stick with it, and I have to make it work.
Oh, Sean Ferreira is someone who stuck with that decision, and the rear just went. Just absolutely went. We can see it. I think his rear left tyre might have got on a bit of the wet track. It just absolutely spins you around. And, yeah, you've got a real kind of train track that you have to follow there in order to not end up in these spins. And we've seen quite a few drivers caught out by it so far. And I'm just looking at Harrison Brinker, who is the, you know, one of the faster drivers out there. He's lost time to Timo Gartner in front since his pit stop. And, well, you can see the dry line there, but it obviously just isn't fast enough on those dries. He's going to have to hope that those on wets are going to come in the middle of their stint and have to do an extra stop.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's your only hope now is the track dries up and, you know, it gives you the advantage you're hoping for. But if it doesn't, which the track temperature is going down. We're now at 15.6, so almost half a degree lower than what we were looking at before, which definitely is not going to lend itself to drawing this track out anymore. So I think you got to just kind of stick with the choices you've made and hope for the best.
Oh, I'm just looking here, Zach. So on the last time around, let me just actually pop out tyre compound choice to make it even more clear out there. But Daniel Kovacs on wets did a 54.6. Eric did a 54.4. Timo Gartner's just done a 52.0. And we're about to look at what Harrison Brinker can do on those dry compound tyres as he comes across the line. It's going to only be a... Oh, actually, it's not only going to be... It's going to be a 55.8. Maybe this is the optimal time for dry tyres, as those times are getting very close together with those on the wets.
Yeah, maybe you're right. I mean, looking at the track now, you can definitely see the dry line forming. So maybe it's one of those you keep it in the dry and, you know, you start gaining that time. Harrison's definitely in a position where it could work out for him. He's kind of, you know, not a whole lot going on in front, not a whole lot going on behind. So he can kind of sit himself in that dry line, at least for the next few laps, and start to gain that time back.
Oh, but look at...
Oh, no.
Look at the kind of thing that can happen to you. You might be able to put in some fast laps, but Sean Ferreira here, we can watch it in slow motion. That's him coming back on the track. I want to see him coming off the track. And here you can see he's just on that wet stuff there, and he's a passenger. From this point onwards, he's accelerating to try and keep himself out of the barriers, but there's absolutely nothing he can do on those wet compound tires, on those dry compound tires. It only takes kind of a momentary lapse of judgment. And look, I mean, he popped his rear wing back there, but the entire back of his car is gone apart from that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it seemed like the dry tire decision definitely has not been doing him any favors this stint.
And it looks like Kit Blair might have had some similar issues, as he's been off the track and might have just got into the wet stuff. And look, he's just turning nowhere at the exact same place where Sean Ferreira was struggling. As soon as you get on the wet stuff, you've just got no turn in whatsoever.
Yeah, you're really relying on being able to keep your car in that dry line, which at this point is almost just the width of the car. So you really have no room for error when you're coming around these tracks and making these tight corners. You have to stay in that dry or you are just going to have a bad time.
But over the past couple of laps, I'm just looking at the lap times here. The wet tyre runners have been mid 54s, high 54s for some of them. Harrison Brinker just set a 54.9. That dry time, at least for the McLaren driver here, is certainly coming up the way, and he's set faster times than Akos Varga and Stefan Heinrichs behind, who've done 57s respectively. Rud Schools just set his personal best of the race to do a 55.227. Maybe it was a couple laps too early, and some of those drivers have certainly paid the price out there of being on the dry compound tyres too early, but those on wets now have a tricky decision to make of what are they going to do now, because the dry tyres are very quickly starting to approach that point where they're becoming the faster compound, as I can see some black flags out there. Is that Timo Gartner and Kip Blair who maybe have a black flag? Oh no, Timo Gartner's just gone.
Yeah, it looks like Timo Gardner had a little bit of a slowdown. Kit Blair, another black flag. I'm not sure if he maybe picked up more incidents there.
It is 21 and then every 10. He's been for quite a few off tracks and quite a few spins. I could believe that he's picked up some more incidents as he drops behind JT Sawyer and now will become last of the cars still driving.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it looks like that dry tire decision has really only worked out for one person out here today. And that's Harrison, as he sets the fastest lap of the race at a 1:53.2.
Now, you've got some thinking to do. As a wet compound driver, I think if you're Akos Varga or Stefan Heinrichs, now is the time I'd come in for those dry compound tires. You're about halfway through your stint. You're going to lose time, but it's not going to be excessive, and you know you're going to have a warmer track than those around you to try and heat up your tires, or at least a drier track. I think it's more difficult if you're Daniel or Eric or even Timo here, because if we have a look at the gap to the leaders, Harrison Brinker's currently 30 seconds behind the lead. 26 seconds, actually. You try and stick it out and save on that extra pit stop, and you'll probably still be in front of Harrison by the time that the regular pit stop window comes around. Or do you... What do you do in this situation? It's a tricky strategic call, I think. Because I think if Daniel pit now, you look at about 40 seconds... 40 litres, 20 seconds... or so for a tyre change. He could come out and it could come out just in front of Harrison if he has a fast stop, but that's not going to continue for a massive amount of laps as Harrison continues to go faster.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. And you're going to have this very quick, very harsh swap of the dry to compound, where these wet compound drivers are going to start to look like our dry tires did in the beginning. Once those wet tires start to, get on that dry surface, they heat up quick. they get insanely slippery, and it can be really hard to keep track of them. Otherwise, you kind of have to start taking the offline to keep your tires in the wet and keep those things cooled down.
Yeah, but I'm just looking for this from this shot here. You can see how clear the dry line is. I'm not sure if it's coming across on the broadcast, but when you get the angle right, I can still see quite a bit of shine on that track. Like, there's still quite a lot of standing water around as well, so you do have to be careful. We saw it happen to a few drivers out there who just catch a little puddle, and that's it. And, you know, they're all very skilled drivers out there, but I think maybe if you take Harrison as kind of the average case here, I'm not sure it's completely true. As he's setting a 8 on the last lap. He's going very quickly, but he's also having to put, I think, a lot of lap time on the table to keep it in the lines there, and maybe some of the less experienced drivers in the wet might struggle with that should they head onto the dry compound tires. So it is not just a decision about who's going faster.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. You know, Harrison's in this position right now where, you know, he's kind of on his own. So it's very easy for him to keep it in those dry lines. But once you start to catch any traffic or anything like that where, you know, you got to move around a car, it's got to be almost impossible since you're kind of stuck within this, you know, about a car's width of dry track while everything else tries to dry around you.
Well, we saw it in Formula One when we had the Grand Prix here with George Russell and Valtteri Bottas. As soon as you're off that dry line, you can be heading to an absolute airplane crash of an accident. You just can't ignore the fact Harrison's gone even faster. It's a 51.1. Looking at all of the wet tyres running, he's going about 3 seconds faster than anybody else out there, even the fastest on the wets.
Yeah, I mean, he's definitely closing that time in. That gap is just coming down steadily, almost like we're looking at a countdown to go as he closes that gap, makes his way through these corners, and just, you know, lap after lap is quickly closing this gap between the P2 and 1 in this pro class.
Indeed, and well, we've still got 5 runners out there on the wet compound tyres. Akos Varga and Stefan Heinrichs on your screens are one of them. They currently sit about 20 seconds or so in front of Rudd School and Karsten Walter, who are both going along reasonably together. Karsten going a little bit faster than the number 181. And yeah, they're still on wet compound tyres, but again, they have the dry runners behind them are going to close in on them pretty quickly, going 3 seconds to 4 seconds a lap faster. That's Stefan Heinrichs off the road there, and gets a slow down penalty for good measure.
Yeah, you know, I think one thing that we also got to keep in mind here is Eric pit a little early in his stint in this race. So he's on lap 16. So I think regardless, he is going to have to pit here in the next lap or two for, you know, at least some fuel and probably a compound change. So maybe he timed himself just right with that early pit where he's able to kind of keep himself up. We'll have to see how that shakes itself out as the race continues.
Indeed, and yeah, it is a 30-minute stint about. Some cars, as we saw in the sprint race, can't make it exactly to 30. They might be at 28 minutes, but of course, a wetter track is a slower track, and that means that you're able to go a little bit longer in terms of time because you've done less laps. Of course, there's also the balance of your fuel use in the wet as well. Generally using a lot of traction control, especially on that transition between wet and dry, that might change your fuel usage around.
Harrison, we can see him in the background if we're looking at Timo's camera. He has closed that gap up to P2. So it looks like right now, Eric's going to be coming in. That leaves Timo and Harrison in that race for P1 and 2 once he gets in there for fuel. So we'll see if he's able to hold him off. He's only on lap 9 of his stint So he's definitely got a lot of time left, and with the the speed differences and the time differences in these two cars, I'd be willing to bet he either needs to pit and get that change of compound before he continues to lose time, or Harrison's just going to drive right by him.
Well, Eric is into the pit lane, and yeah, as you said, he pit on lap number 9 as Harrison is absolutely flying at this point, Zach. 4 seconds a lap faster than Timo on that last lap. I think this really has to be a warning call to all of those still on the wet compound, because we said earlier that Harrison was 25 seconds behind the lead, down to 11 seconds now, and well, we didn't really see it as an overtake there. We'll have a little look back, but it looked like Harrison absolutely breezed past Timo Gartner there. As let's watch it in full speed here, and
look at that speed difference.
And he's just able to brake so much later as well with that extra grip. Those wet tires must be screaming from temperature, and yeah, he just absolutely flies past. And yeah, that has to be a warning to those still on wets. Like they've got very little time left to make a decision. 52 minutes to go. You're gonna have to put in a hell of a lot of pace to catch back up with Harrison on dry tires. He's just done a 48.
Yeah, I mean, even looking at their times now, Harrison just ran a 1:48.8, setting the fastest lap again. Timo ran a 1:52.8. So that is a full 4 seconds slower a lap, and that is going to continue to bleed off as these, warm tires get into a better position, the wet tires get into a worse position. And I think Timo is he's gonna have to make that decision to pit here very soon, or he's just gonna continue to lose massive amounts of time to these people on the dries.
And well, let's see what Harrison does. He doesn't set another fastest lap, but he did overtake Timo Gartner during that lap, so maybe excusable for that. But you can see it. You can see it so much. If we look from the rear cam, at this point on the last lap, they were side by side. They're almost just straight separated in one lap. That's an absolutely monumental difference to build over a lap. And we're seeing it with the lead as well. Daniel on the wet compound tyres did a 1:53.7 versus Harrison's 1:59. 4 seconds of difference to the lead as well. I'm not sure why he's still out there, unless he thinks he can maybe try and keep Harrison behind and fight out the lead with them both on dry tyres.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting because they're both on the same stint plan. So looking at
and
how
Harrison
this
goes for a little slide. I think he managed to catch a bit of the water. We were saying it is tricky out there, but still he remains in front of Timo Gartner. And I tell you what, I wouldn't be surprised if he's setting a faster lap than Daniel, even with that little spin.
I think you're absolutely right. It's got to be a tough call, and I'm really wondering what's going through Timo's head as he's watching these times just bleed off. And even if Harrison can make 1 or 2 more of those mistakes, and if he doesn't switch those tires soon, it's still not really going to make a difference.
We're seeing it with those who maybe lost out a little bit as well towards the early part of the dry stint. Karsten Walter just set the fastest lap of the race at 47.790. They're very quickly closing in on that little train with Stefan Heinrichs and Akos Varga together, who are still on the wet compound tyres. And, well, there's a big gap between them, 30 seconds up to Timo Gartner. But it's happening everywhere. It's not just Harrison now who's able to extract the pace out of those dries. It's every driver up and down the grid.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. These guys have to be stopping soon. I mean, Timo's on his 12th lap. We've been seeing them run about 16 laps to a full tank, so he's only got 4 laps on these tires. Maybe he's thinking, you know what? I need to run it as close to that 30-minute mark as I can. Try to make it there. Maybe this last stop on the dries, his pace will be able to pick it up, but it's becoming tougher and tougher for them to stay out on those tires, I bet.
Oh, a little snap of oversteer there for Harrison. But look who's in the front view of Harrison's car. It's Daniel for the lead. 2 seconds is the gap between them. That's absolutely insane to see how much the gap has changed in these last couple of laps. It was the dry tyres that were the right choice during that earlier pit stop. And I think that if you're Daniel here, we're about to come up to lap number 30. Is he going to decide to come into the pit lane and switch for dries? Then he's going to have to pay the penalty of an extra stop at the end of the race. I can't see how these two are going to stay in this order come the end of this lap, because just the amount of speed that they're able to carry on the dry tyres is crazy out there. And but I think that Stefan Heinrichs potentially had a mistake, or was it just the pure speed that means Carsten Walter has just got past them from 4 seconds back. And here comes as well Harrison Brinker back into the lead of the race, fastest lap to go with it. Got a bit of a scuff on that McLaren. I don't think it's causing him to lose any pace at all, as he's managed to come from all the way back, going for a little bit of a spin into the lead of the race. The gap already 1.5 seconds.
Yeah, I mean, we look at their times now even. We've got Harrison running a 1:47.3, Timo running a 1:52.1, and Daniel running a 1:52.7. So we're now looking at like a almost 5.5 second difference lap per lap, which is a significant amount of time when you're looking on a track like this, where your fastest times are just under 2 minutes. So it's not a super long track, and they're just going to keep losing time, and we'll have to see. I mean, at this point, I'm wondering if you're already on the wets, you're so close to making it to that 30-minute gap. Do you just bite the bullet? You stay out, you make it past 30 minutes, and then you come in, and again, like we were talking about before, you just hope that you have enough pace on dries to make that time back up.
I think ultimately those still on the wets have made the wrong decision here. I think that as soon as they saw the likes of Harrison getting close to their lap times, not even beating them, they should have thought, okay, the dries are as fast now, I'm going to eat the penalty of maybe a 20-second pit stop. But like Daniel Kovacs, he was in the lead by 25 seconds from Harrison. He could have been essentially at the same point as him with cold dries, admit that the mistake was made, and now be right up the front and battling him rather than 5 seconds off. I just can't see this strategy of sticking on the wets just so you can get to that pit stop. It's cost them more time than the pit stop to change tyres would have been.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. And now you're in this time-sunk fallacy type situation where you're already so close to 30 minutes, you've already lost the time. You're almost losing more time if you pit and then you take the splash. So it's just kind of this compounding, series of mistakes that I think is going to cost them their positions big time.
Stefan Heinrichs heads into the pit lane. He was one of those who pit really early on, earlier in this race, as Akos Varga and Eric Gerhard are going side by side here. They are teammates. Is the faster car going to be let through? I don't think there's much choice as that all gets a bit messy, and the front end of Akos's car gone there. Rudd School, I think, maybe got out into the wet stuff. I think actually the front end might have it did just pop itself back onto the front of Akos's car there. But I think that Rudd School there just caught a bit of the wet on the outside. And I'd like to go a little bit earlier on in the collision than that and see exactly what happened. He was just trying to take advantage there. And there's an unfortunate tree in the way there that makes it very hard to see exactly what happened from this helicopter cam. But I think he might have just caught a bit of water rather than any collision being made. Not completely sure, but he does go spinning sideways and gets a punt for good measure there.
Yeah, I think it's definitely, it was very close. It doesn't look like they touched anything there. If anything, it looks like Red might have just came a little bit low trying to stay in that dry line and maybe just caught the outside corner of that Porsche.
Indeed. Yeah, I can believe that. But we were saying a little bit before that incident that those on the wet tyres are now in that sunk cost zone where they've just been on wets for so long, they may be past the point where they could keep their position, and they've just had to stick with it. And, well, oh, a slide for Akos Varga as well. That's not going to help him, and that's just how much those wets are maybe overheating as he goes forward, back, forward, back. He's going to have to regain himself to the road, and I think he might be heading to the pit lane to change out those tyres. At least I would be. No, he carries on driving as we pass that hour mark, and it's Timo and Akos here who are still on the wet compound tyres. And with that strategy call, Harrison has, well, he's gained a lead of 25.
25-second gap.
Yeah, and I have nothing more to say than he's got a 25-second gap from, you know, being 30 seconds off of the lead. That's the kind of difference that call has made for him out there.
I think even if I'm Timo at this point, you gotta damage control this as much as possible. I think as soon as I cross that 30-minute threshold, I'm coming in the pits. I'm gonna take a little, take a full tank, but you're still getting a little less fuel in that tank because of being in those pits, and then switching to those dry tires. You gotta get off those tires as soon as you possibly can and stop that bleeding.
Well, we're seeing Sean Ferreira might be about to pick up a place here from Akos Varga. He's on the dry compound tyres, and Porsche is just struggling so much through any and every corner, and just the less resistance that Mercedes on the dry tyres is able to makes it an absolutely easy pass there. Timo in the pit lane. Rod Scholes also in the pit lane, and yeah, Timo Gartner, 21.1 second stationary time for him. He's going to come out, I think, in front of this group as he's heading towards the pit exit, and now he's back out on track. So indeed, he resumes in 5th place, but now he's coming to the pit lane. Zach, 41 seconds, Harrison's advantage.
Yeah, that is crazy. Looking at chat, I gotta agree. Biffle's dry tire gamble seems to have been the way to go. Earlier in the race, we were calling it different, but looks like these drivers, anyone who was able to get on the dry compound and keep it safe for just a couple laps, was really able to pick up a ginormous advantage here in the later stages of this race.
Absolutely, and I'm happy to admit when I'm wrong. The track was too wet for dry tyres, but it just worked after a couple of laps of heating them up. I think it might have been 3 or 4 laps into the stint that they became equal with the wets, and ever since they've just been plain faster. And well, Akos's final pit stop. He's at the pit exit now. Carsten Walter heads into the pit lane as well for his second stop of this race. And yeah, it's just the strategy that has worked. I would have done exactly the same. I would have come in and I would have probably stayed on the same wet tyres, keep a bit of heat in them, and not pay the heat up penalty that you get for the first couple of laps. But I think I would have differed from those drivers as soon as I saw the dry tyres getting about as fast as the wets. That's when you know it's the time to come in, and I would have just had to have eaten that penalty, of a couple more laps. Who knows? There's a reason that I'm not driving out there right now, and yeah, that is certainly what I would have done, and it would have been the wrong call because, yeah, you can see it on your screens. Harrison Brinker, almost a minute the lead from Eric. And I do believe Eric still has to make a pit stop very soon, if I'm not mistaken. As Harrison Brinker here.
Yeah, absolutely. Even at 56 seconds, the pit lane, a full pit stop here is about 49-ish seconds. So, I mean, he can go in, new tires, full fuel, which he's not going to have to take because we're at 24 minutes down. and he is still going to be about 6 seconds ahead on this track.
Absolutely. And Harrison Brinker there, who did a lap on Stefan Heinrichs. Can you believe at some point in this race, Stefan Heinrichs was your race leader and defending for position from Harrison. He now becomes a lap down in this race. And yeah, absolutely sensational strategy from Harrison there. He's taken it and flown, and hopefully I don't curse him as he continues round the rest of his lap. As Harrison makes his way into the pit lane, just as we said. But yeah, 2.4 kilometers advantage. That's pretty much half of this track's length. So yeah, he's going to have absolutely no problems resuming his way out in first position. And he's not going to need 50% fuel because he's 7 minutes past the hour. And well, he's going to probably need about 35 to 40 litres make it to the end of this race, which is in 20 minutes time. I can't say the composition of this track looks anywhere close to what it looked like at the beginning, but in some of those places, especially kind of on the runoff zones, I'm still seeing a little bit of puddling. There's still some damp places on this track, but yeah, certainly no trouble to those drivers out there, all of which are now on the dry tyres.
Yeah, it's definitely been a turn of events from what I would have called, you know, about 30, 45 minutes ago. So these guys definitely, I mean, like we were saying, this is why they're higher iRating. They've got that strategy. They've got that driver's skill, something I'm still working on.
And, well, Harrison out of the pit lane now. 17 seconds is his advantage all the way back to Eric there, who looked like he was having an unfortunate race for quite a while, but up to P2 is not bad at all. However, I do think he's going to have to make a splash and dash before the end of the race.
I think you might be right. He's on lap 9 right now. He's been running about 16 laps on those tanks. So if I think about he's got about 6 laps left at 1:40. Yeah, he's definitely going to have to make a splash. I would be willing to bet with about 5 to 8 minutes left in this race.
Well, we're not too far away from that, coming up to 1 hour and 10 minutes in. And, well, it has been a reverse grid race. So certainly don't take these values for complete reading over the pace of our drivers. And I am just trying to find the little button that I'm looking for. There it is. You can see in this race the big winners: Harrison Brinker, Eric and Daniel, up 5, 8 and 6th places respectively. Timo Gartner, very fast driver, and actually started towards the front. Very unfortunate to have that spin earlier on in the race. Kit Blair, well, he dropped out of the race 13 laps ago after having a good number of accidents and 2 black flags. JT Sawyer is down 6. He got that very unfortunate black flag at the beginning of this race. And, well, still to be disputed, I think, is that that start from Timo Gartner. And I think a few drivers went with him when they shouldn't have done. Be interesting to see how that goes in the stewards' room. Of course, we've seen a few smashes and bashes between drivers as well, so the result you see on your screen might not be the finishing result of this race. Stefan Heinrichs down 4, Carsten Walter up 6. Good gains from him during this feature race, and well, drivers have been close together, but you know, those at the front have done so based on strategy. And yeah, it is Harrison, Eric, and Daniel who seem to have mastered the strategy out there on track today. They managed to keep themselves out of enough incidents as well to keep them at the front. And have a little look here. Timo Gartner, 4 seconds off the back of Daniel Kovacs, who we're watching here. Keep an eye on that gap in the final 20 minutes of that race. See if there aren't any last-minute overtakes to come. Dino Ferrari makes his way to the pit lane for the final time in this race. And I think that might be for a little splash and dash of fuel, if I'm not mistaken. I don't see any black flag from him, as he now starts to fall backwards through the field there. And, well, someone who's pushing forwards with 15 minutes to go is Timo Gartner. Gap down to 3.5 seconds now between Timo Gartner and Daniel Kovacs. That graphic there, not completely true. As we have a look, there we go. You can see the difference. So on the last lap, Timo managing to make up a whole heap of time on the Porsche in front of him, and it looks like he's going to gain about another half a second on this lap as well. Oh, maybe a full second as he powers through the chicane there. And yeah, really making some gains forward and wanting to make it an all-pro top 3. No, Timo! He just caught some water there. I was listening to his engine. I was like, he's catching. He's going to lose a position to Carsten Walter as well. It is still tricky out there. Let's see what happened to him. Off board, we were riding. Oh, I can see it. He just got his left-hand wheels in that water, and look, he's gone.
Yep. You see a little bit of that spray pop up on that right-hand side, and it is just an immediate snap of that car going around.
You can see he's heading to the outside, which is the natural place. That's where you want to go. You see the spray, and he touches the brakes. You can just see the moment that he touches the brakes. And at that point, he's becoming a passenger. It is still tricky out there, even for those pro-class drivers. He was gaining so well on the Porsche in front. then he was just heading backwards through the gravel, and he was a passenger as soon as he touched the brakes in that gravel, and he lost a position to Carsten Walter to go with him.
Man, he was making up some really good time there as well.
Yeah, 3 seconds back from Carsten Walter. He was almost going for 3rd place overall, but down to 5th position, and just over 15 minutes to go. I think he's going to have a bit of a challenge to get to and overtake Carsten in front. And Akos Varga there, I think it might have just been a slowdown. I saw a penalty pop up, but it was just a slowdown for him. Not going to want to repeat the same mistake. Here is Timo. He's getting close to that water. Just about keeps it in play. And, it is millimetres that can be the margin sometimes between spinning backwards and, ending up going at quite some good speed through there. You can see, actually, Eric Gerbhard here, he's going very quickly indeed, going faster than Harrison Brinker. He's just set a fastest lap, I believe. Have a little look at the previous time. Yes, he did. He set a 41.568. He's going very fast in that Porsche, but I think unfortunately he's just going to run out of time because he's got a 14-second gap, and he's gaining, by almost exactly a second a lap on Harrison, and he's going to have to pull out even faster if he's going to want to beat him.
Yeah, he's on lap 14 now, so he's got 2, maybe 3 laps of fuel left, which is going to put him right at about 8 minutes. That's not gonna bring him to the end of the race, is it? It is not. He is gonna have to make a splash at about 8 minutes left here. I think I called him a little bit earlier, but it's looking right about. It's gonna be about 7-8 minutes left. He'll have to pull in and get some fuel to make it to the end. Yeah, indeed, as Akos Varga lets his teammate go. He's 23 seconds further back from Eric, and he's gonna want to push to try and catch Eric. Of course, because he is going to have to come in for that pit lane, but they are teammates, so maybe a little bit of teammate competitiveness rather than all-out pace. But of course, you always want to be the driver in front. Oh, looks like Stefan Heinrichs might have taken a little spin there. Let's have a little look at what happened to him. We are in half motion here. Oh, and yes, he does. And it's like the same thing. It's just looking like that corner, able to catch a few drivers out, especially when you've been driving on the dry so long. That it's just a little bit of a spin for Stefan, and I believe that's him coming back on the track. Yes, it is. Yeah, I mean, it looks like there's that little bit of that straight there that still has that shade cover from those trees, and it's able to keep that track just wet enough to make it dangerous. Indeed, and I didn't notice that Akos Varga still missing the front end of that Porsche there, and he's kind of incentivized here to keep Carsten Walter behind for a little bit, because his teammate is the car that Carsten is chasing. Of course, he's not allowed to defend, but he is allowed to stick on the racing line and run his own race there, as down the inside goes Carsten Walter, and I'm not exactly sure what happened. He took a little bit of and Timo Gardner's round again. Maybe. He's bouncing over. No. He's bouncing over the curb, and it's that exact same corner, Zach. Is it the exact same problem? Yes, he's just got those. He's just got those left side wheels into the water, and he's going for a bounce, and very lucky to keep it out of the gravel there. But there's something going on down there, because you can see it. We'll watch it in slow motion here. That you want to, in the dry, be going to the very edge of that track,
but it's just where a puddle still is. We were saying about, a cold track, and those puddles from earlier in the race still haven't cleared, and it just picks up so much water that, he's just bouncing all over the curb there. And, second time in 3 laps is not going to be great for Timo there. And, I don't think he's going to be catching up with Carsten Walter after that.
Yeah, I mean, especially on these dry tires, you get into an area like that where you just got, 2 tires where it's a little bit wet, 2 tires completely on the dry. You even look at those brakes the wrong way, and that car will just snap into a spin quicker than you can catch it.
Indeed. It's very tricky out there, just on the, the track that we have going. It is a dry track, and you can see how much of the track is dry, and you just look down the side of the track and there's full-on puddles as Eric now heads into the pit lane, which is going to be his final stop with 8 minutes remaining. Let's go down to let's go down to Eric here, and he's heading into the pit lane. How long is his pit stop going to be? Is his teammate, Daniel Kovacs, going to be able to catch up? Well, I think he is. We ride on board with him now. You could hear him revving. Eric in the pit lane. How close are they going to be as they come out? I think Daniel might just about get in front here as he does move up to second place overall. Where is Eric? He's just out of the pit exit now and is going to be, he's going to be 4 seconds behind his teammate. He's also going to be behind Carsten Walter. Well, these two have had a battle throughout the 2 races we've had today. Why not another one?
Like Eric, he's closing the gap to Carson here. He's definitely going to make it a race for the finish.
Yeah, I think that Carsten might have had a little tricky end to the lap there. And I mean, 3/10 is the gap. They're the 2 closest cars on track by quite a while. And we saw that move from Carsten earlier on in this, not in this race, in the sprint race, earlier in the round. Today is Eric going to give him a little bit of payback for that dive down the inside. They've had a spicy battle as all. Carsten Walter catches the grass, and I think that's going to let Eric through, and by quite a margin. I think he might have caught a bit of water to go with it as well. Let's have a little look off board there and see exactly what happened. Yeah, he just got into the water, and that sent him all the way wide into the gravel. Puddles on this track really are setting the, the scene here for how this race is ending. Want to have a little look, in fact, from Carsten's cockpit and just see what exactly happened there. I trying to find the right camera angle. There it is, and see what happened. As that is not his cockpit. Cockpit there, that is, and we will rewind and see what happened to him here as he just carries a bit too much speed. That sends him into a puddle, and then that sends him into the gravel. That lets Eric all the way through up into P2 of this race.
Yeah, this track giving us great examples. Again, if you're not too familiar with racing or being in one of these cars, you can see how just sometimes the smallest amount of water can be such a difference in the track state, especially when you're on these dry tires.
Oh, I've seen
And
Carsten.
it can make a big difference.
Carsten Walter from that now has Daniel Kovacs here. It says Carsten passed him for P3. I want to go and have a little look at what happened. It looks like Daniel had an incident, and it's at that favourite spot again, Zach. Does he put his wheels into the water? I have a horrible feeling I've seen this one before.
Yes, he does.
And I didn't like the ending, as Carsten Walter able to get past Daniel there, as we just saw a moment ago, as he recovered back on the track and probably had to serve a slowdown that, well, it's certainly been one loss for Carsten, but he's made a gain straight back again.
Yeah, I mean, that little straight into that corner has been the downfall of 3 different drivers on 4 different occasions just in these closing laps.
Indeed, and well, we're approaching 3 minutes to go here in what has been quite the exciting race, despite the smaller grid here. Stefan Heinrichs has been into the pit lane, but I think he's picked up a black flag in the process. I think he might have pit for fuel and maybe sped on entry, or maybe that black flag came at a different point. But now it is Carsten Walter, but it's Daniel Kovacs he's battling with now for P3 at the end of this race. And, well, once again, I think it's going to be 2 laps to go with Carsten and another black, white, red and yellow car for company. And, well, he's going to want to stay ahead in order to keep that 3rd position come the end of this race. And, yeah, let's see what exactly happens in these closing laps.
Yeah, I mean, and this would be for P1 and 2 of their class, so they're definitely, regardless of where they're at in the overall position, they're definitely going to want to be racing each other to keep that position and get that pole for their class and getting those points.
Absolutely, a very close championship in the Pro-Am that absolutely every point is going to help. And, yeah, this is going to make a big difference come the final round next week at Portimao. And, yeah, we're going to see who comes out on top as the closing moments come towards this race. It is going to be Harrison Brinker who has a 40-second lead after all of those spins and incidents earlier on. Stefan Heinrichs is into the pit lane. I think that's to serve his black flag. But what is going to come of this battle between Daniel Kovacs and Carsten Walter has extended slightly to 0.8 of a second, and I'm riding on board here to see if we're going to get the white flag or whether there will be one more lap for this race to go. Not exactly sure where Harrison is on the track, but the countdown is now less than a minute left. We're going to keep our eyes to the left-hand side. Do we see Barney the flagman waving a flag? Yes, we do. That is the white flag lap. And the gap now for Carsten Walter is a little bit safer. A second between them now. Is there going to be anything that Daniel can do to pressure Carsten into a mistake on this final lap of the race? There's been a lot of difficult puddles out there today for these drivers, but it's looking like staying strong through the first half of the lap. Down to 0.8. Is there anything that Daniel's going to be able to do come the end of this race? Closing it in, 0.7 of a second now. This is the moment. He's got a 20-second gap behind us. There's any time to push a bit harder, maybe go into that riskier bit of the track. And it is going to be Harrison Brinker who wins the race for you in that pro class. And we're watching P2, P3 and P4. You can see them all in your mirrors here, but I'm thinking that Daniel's just going to be slightly too far back, and he tries absolutely everything, but he's out onto the wet stuff there. He's going to get a slow down, and I think that might be the end of the battle here.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. We're coming into this final corner. If there was going to be any place to make a move, you definitely want the run coming out of here. And it looks like Daniel still has that slowdown, so he's going to have to serve that before he picks up the black flag. It looks like he does, and that's going to give Carson Walter that P1 in the Pro-Am class.
Absolutely, and well, certainly, yeah, don't want to keep that black flag because that would send him further backwards in the order, back to Timo Gartner. 40 seconds is what you pick up there, and well, he's well and truly done with that race as he goes quite aggressively down into turn 1 and must be quite frustrated with himself because he was quite happily in P3. It's going to be Timo Gartner who takes P5 there, and well, a few drivers left to come round to the final part of this lap in Rudd School, coming up to the line now. He's going to finish the race in P6. Coming in behind, it is Sean Ferreira in P number 7. Stefan Heinrichs and Akos Varga already finishing. It is going to be JT Sawyer coming around that final corner now to be your final car to finish on the track. And there we go. Here we have it then. Let's have a look at your final race order from that race there. And it's going to be Carsten Walter. Oh, that's the first heat. I was going to say Carsten Walter did not win the race. We're going to want to have a look at the feature race results. There we are. It is going to be Harrison Brinker, who is your race winner by 38 seconds, back from Eric Gerhard. Carsten Walter and Daniel Kovacs, we saw them battling very hard at the end, but it is going to be P3 for Carsten and P4 for Daniel. Timo Gartner comes in a disappointing P5 after starting P2 and having that spin at the beginning of the race. Rudd School in P6, Sean Ferreira in P7, Stefan Heinrich in 8th, Akos Varga 9th, and JT Sawyer is your last finisher with Kip Blair 27 laps behind the lead there. Well, that has been quite the race there, and well, we can go and have a little look, if we can, at anyone who wants to talk with us. And it's Carsten Walter, who I think is going to be first out, coming out after what has been quite a tricky race. It looked pretty difficult out there during the feature. How was it out there?
Oh, it was really tricky.
It looked like it was a difficult decision to make, whether you went onto the dries or stayed on the wets in the first pit stop. How were you feeling coming up to there and kind of trying to make the right decision?
Okay, so I wasn't going to go to the slicks. I thought it was still too wet. And so when I had to pit, I actually forgot that I had to pit. So I had to tow back to the pit lane because I didn't have fuel. And then I was like, my race is probably over, so I'll just go to the slicks. And that was the right decision. And now I'm back at the front.
We saw it and we thought it was quite confusing that you just kind of pulled over and towed back. We didn't see anything go wrong. But yeah, running out of fuel didn't do you too badly to end up P1 in your class and P3 overall.
Yeah.
At the end of that race, it looked like it was getting very tricky down into that chicane, lots of water, and you were able to pick up the position from Daniel there, right after picking up a bit of water yourself. Being on those dry tyres at the end, it seemed like there were still a lot of puddles. Was it something that you kind of had to consciously try and stop yourself from driving into?
Yeah, there were definitely still a lot of puddles, and what also didn't help is that I didn't change tires in the second pit stop, so I did like an hour on these slicks, and they were getting really understeery at the end.
Okay. Well, that makes a lot of sense out there, but still managed to come home with a P3 overall and a P1 in your class. If we have a little look here at the overall standings, if we have a look at those pro standings, currently in third place before we've added the points from this week, it looks like you're going to be very close to Daniel and Gabor there. How are you feeling for the final round? And it looks like it's going to be a straight shootout, to be honest, between you three.
Yeah. So next week is Portimao, I think.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah. I that's not my strongest track. Like I never drive there. So it's gonna be tough. I need to do a lot of practice, but
Well,
yeah, we'll see.
good luck, and we'll see how it goes next week for the final round in Portimao. But yeah, congratulations to you today. Looked very tricky, and well, good job keeping out of the barrier more than anything.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, let's mix up the order then and have a chat to Harrison here, who well, if you look at the final timing, it looks like he won the race quite comfortably. But if you look at his race, it was certainly interesting out there. How does it go from your perspective?
Went well for the most part. Struggling a bit with tiredness, running off for like 3 hours of sleep, and it's 6 a.m. currently. But it went well when I actually drove on the track and wasn't going backwards.
It does always help. Driving the right way around the track as well. You were one of those people to take an early gamble onto dry tires. Was it a bit of a Hail Mary, or kind of how are you deciding? Because from our perspective, the track still looked quite wet, and it was definitely a struggle for the first few laps. How did you decide to head onto the wet tires today?
Honestly,
on the dry tires,
I think,
sorry.
Yep, honestly, I think it's just I feel very comfortable on a drying track on slicks with just a thin, dry line. I made considerably less mistakes actually in that compared to when I was just on the full wets. So I just felt comfortable and thought I'd have the pace, and then eventually when the track came to it, I gained back 30 seconds on the leader in like 15 laps or so. So it was quite good.
Yeah, I mean, we were saying it here that we were very surprised that those in front of you didn't kind of cut their losses and go in for the dries earlier, even though they hadn't got it on their pit stop, because you were gaining 4 or 5 seconds a lap coming towards the end there, which was crazy pace. Turn our direction. One last round left of the championship. How do you feel about Portimao next week?
I'm looking forward to finish off the season and in a bit of a battle with Eric. Haven't driven Portimao before, so I'm gonna have to give that a good bit of practice. But yeah, I am quite looking forward to it. I think it'll be good with Eric. I'm not sure what the points gap is now. I think I've extended a little bit finishing head, but yeah, just overall really looking forward to it.
Well, we'll see which one of you we are speaking to next week. But yeah, good luck, and I like Portimao, so everyone should.
Yeah,
all right,
awesome.
Catch you
Thank
in a
you.
bit. All right, well, let's have one final chat with Stefan here. Tricky conditions out there today, and well, starting towards the front in the wet is never the easiest. How do you feel with the wet track out there, and kind of the decision of wet to dries in the middle of the race as well?
Hi guys, yeah, it was really tricky in the beginning. I think I messed up the start following Timo. I'm usually not in the front, so I don't know really the procedure. I just follow along. Yeah, I think some people changed to dry tires earlier than I did, but I just did it with my regular planned pit stop. Was alright. Spun a couple of times too often, if you ask me, but not complaining.
Fair enough. And I'll ask you the same question as well. How do you feel about Portimao next week? I feel like it's a bit of a niche favourite for some, and some haven't driven it before. Have you had any practice around there?
I know Portimao quite well. It's a fun track. Has some flowy corners. If you get used to it, can be a lot of fun.
All right. Well, good luck to you, and yeah, we'll see how the championship continues or concludes, should I say, next week. But yeah, good luck. Good job, shall I say, surviving the conditions out there today.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Well, Zach, one round to go at Portimao. It is going to be dry next time out, maybe to the delight of some of our drivers. I'm looking forward to it. How are you feeling about one last go for DWREC around the Portuguese circuit?
Yeah, I'm not too familiar with Portimao, but I'm looking forward to this last race. I'm having a feeling it's going to be a strong one, and we'll see who comes out on top.
Absolutely. Well, that just leaves me to Thank you, Zach, for joining us there. Thank you, everybody, for coming and joining along and watching at home as well. And we hope you join us next week at the same time, same place, for the final round of DWREC at Portimao. Goodbye.